Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching fourth part of What If Naruto Becomes Rayearth Knight of Wind. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Why did he not show up for training? Why, out of all the things he wanted most, like training and power, was he looking for the source of the dope's power? It didn't make sense to him, since Naruto wasn't someone he thought was more powerful or a threat to his goals. After all, what are the chances of Naruto, the junkie, running into Itachi, his brother who was killed? They are almost none, zero, nada, and what are the chances of the same Naruto facing his brother on an even playing field? No word, in fact, could describe the odds he was giving his teammate if he had to face his brother, if that happened. But for some reason, Sasuke, the top rookie of the year, the last Uchiha, the boy who thought he should marry the strongest kunoichi to have strong ninjas, wouldn't mind having the 4 rookie girls all to himself after the second part of the Chunin exams. But on the subject at hand, he couldn't think of any reason why he should be following Naruto, who was walking away with the old man with long hair, probably to eat or look for another place to train. 5 minutes later, 2 men in black cloaks caught up to them. One of them looked too much like his brother to be a stranger. Ero Sennin, who are all those people? Bad news, Naruto, be on your guard. Please move over, Jiraiya-sama. We're here for Naruto-kun. The Itachi lookalike's voice, tone, and the way he moved made Sasuke's blood boil, but he didn't attack until he knew for sure who the man was in front of his teammate. When the old man said, Itachi Uchiha killed the Uchiha, was responsible for the Uchiha massacre, and was the former Anbu captain of Konoha, Sasuke's blood began to boil. At that moment, all of his inhibitions and the voices in his head that said, not yet, and, you are not ready, were pushed aside by a single feeling. Get even. Sasuke jumped from the tree he was perched on and charged. He didn't even look when Naruto called his name, and he didn't care that his brother was calling him. He only wanted to kill Itachi. Itachi, he said, hissing the name like it was a bad taste stuck in his mouth. He closed his eyes and got ready to use his Sharingan, but as soon as he did, he felt a foreign force in him, the same thing he had felt in the forest before Naruto beat him so easily. He didn't care if he didn't bring his new sword. If he had to, he would beat Itachi with his bare hands. I have done what you told me to do. I hate, loathe, and despise you, Sasuke said, making hand seals for his strongest fire jutsu. And today, he said, closing his eyes. I want more power, more power. When Sasuke opened his eyes, he could feel the power rushing through his veins and filling his body. He barely heard what Naruto said about the seal, but he didn't care. His eyes, ears, body, and mind were only on Itachi and killing him. The rest of the world faded away. Don't pay attention to him, Naruto-kun. He's not important. You, on the other hand. Itachi's words made him angry, angrier than anything else. His brother ignoring and dismissing him was a blow to his pride that he would not accept. You are more important, we are coming for you, Naruto-kun, was the last straw. Whatever self-control Sasuke had before was lost and gone. It was the worst thing anyone had ever said to him, and he would make sure the other person knew it. Don't ignore me. He snarled, making Itachi look at him. You are not ready, not yet. His anger and lack of control grew even more. With a roar, he ran at him, ignoring everything around him and forgetting all about his training. It was time for revenge, and nothing would stop him, nothing. Teme. He had yelled after Sasuke had charged at Itachi, his brother, and been easily pushed back by him. This was why Sasuke was so sad and angry, and he was damn right that he wasn't going to let Itachi beat Sasuke's face in with a hammer. Rayearth, your fight is with us. Die. But when he tried to do that, the so-called wraiths stopped him. They had their katanas out and were ready to cut him down. With nothing else to do, Kei's no Yaiba got ready and aimed it at the 3 wraiths. Come get me, punks, was all Naruto said as he circled the wraiths. The wraiths did the same, and Naruto's eyes darted around, sizing up the wraiths. He was scared, in fact he was panicking. If Ero Sennin really told him not to face them, then something was wrong, very wrong. Naruto Uzumaki, don't be afraid. I'm here with you, and I'll help you in any way I can. Naruto let out a sigh of relief. While Sasuke and Jiraiya kept Itachi and Kisame, also known as Weasel Face and Shark Face, busy, he would only have to deal with 3 weirdos. At least these were not S-class criminals. Don't think too little of them, Naruto. They come from Crystalia and have fought Rayearths before. Be careful, be sure, and strike without fear. They deserve to die. Naruto's eyes hardened, and he gripped Kei's no Yaiba even tighter. His body tensed up, and he got ready to attack with everything he had, as Anima had told him to do. Be afraid, Rayearth, the Dark One is back. Soon, the first Wraith slashed at Naruto, but Naruto raised his blade high and blocked the slash. With a kick, he pushed the Wraith away, ducking when the second Wraith came up from his left and tried to stab him. Soon, he jumped away and avoided the stab to the ground. With the third Wraith in the air, Naruto began to spin, aiming his blade at the first ray. You're pathetic, you'll die like the other knights, and you won't be there when our lord comes back. The first Wraith ran at Naruto with a high-pitched scream. He narrowed his eyes. It was time to use the frog sword, Kata, on them. Jiraiya yelled, "Fire release, dragon stream," and let out a huge tongue of fire at Kisame. Kisame jumped out of the way of the fire jet, which burned the ground down to the dirt. My turn, old man, Kisame said as he ran at the toad sage, the Samahata digging a path as it was pulled along, bringing it up to the sage, who dodged the first sweep, then started to step back, making a game of feet and moving left to right backwards while avoiding Kisami's wild sweeps. So it's true what the myths say about him, Jiraiya thought as he looked at Samahata and the cut on his left arm. It didn't look like much, but it hurt a lot. A cut is one thing, but having your skin almost shaved off is another. His sword was part of the 3-tailed turtle gift before it was sealed, the toad sage said with a growl, stepping up the battle. Kisame still couldn't believe how fast the toad sage was moving. In a fraction of a second, he was within a foot of him. Jiraiya only said, "Boo," before his fist connected with Kisami's jaw in a thunderous uppercut. As he was falling over, the Akatsuki turned around and swung his sword at the sage to slow him down. Suddenly, the left side of his ribcage cracked, and he gasped in pain. Kisame turned around again, and this time his nose felt the impact. Now falling over, the shark man lost his balance, but he could still hear quite well. Kisame grabbed Naruto right away. When the shark man raised his head, he saw that Naruto, who was now standing behind him, was getting ready for some kind of huge blade attack against the wraiths. He ignored the toad sage with a grin, and that was the first and last mistake he made, because as soon as he took his first step, Jiraiya was all over him. When Kisame turned around, he saw a famous move used by a foe that not even the whole Akatsuki could beat. Come on. Itachi could send his stupid little brother flying like he was made of air with just a flick of his wrist. He used to be an Anbu captain, but he quit as soon as Kakashi came along and he got bored of it. Of course, he quit when he killed his clan. The memories of what he did that fateful night almost 4 years ago were still fresh in his mind and in his body, but he knew he had done the right thing. He had stopped the 4th Shinobi War by himself, but he would always be remembered as the one who killed the Uchiha and as the assassin. He would never be seen as a hero, but as the worst kind of villain, even worse than Orochimaru himself. But he knew he had done the right thing, and he could die happy knowing that he had done the right thing, that he would die at his brother's hands, and that by his brother's hands, the Uchiha clan would be reborn, free of the taint that had once plagued it. Die. Sasuke yelled, launching himself blindly at him again. He just sighed and moved faster than Sasuke's immature Sharingan could follow. His foot found homage in his brother's belly, lifting him up slightly into the air. With a flick of his arm that hit his brother's cheek, Sasuke found himself flying again onto a tree, coughing blood as his back hit the tree. With a sigh, Itachi turned around just in time to see Kisame get hit in the gut by Jiraiya's Rasengan and have his robes torn up by the balloon-sized drill. The only reason they attacked so blindly was because they had something they didn't, the element of surprise. By seeing how Jiraiya and Naruto fought, they would be better prepared for the next fight. Soon, he set his sights on the blonde, who was their target. Even if he wasn't a Rayearth, as Pain had said, he would still be a threat to the Akatsuki and their leader if he was left alone. After all, the boy was descended from the greatest shinobi of all time, who even his master feared, who could bring Kyuubi to his knees and steal his master's most powerful weapon and use it against him. As a Rayearth, he was something even worse, more powerful. Even without his Rayearth skills, he would become the best shinobi ever over time. But everything came down to one thing: time. The boy didn't have time, because Itachi Uchiha would catch him with his ultimate genjutsu, which neither the stone-cold Hiashi nor the mind-messed-up Gaara of the desert could stand up to. Itachi sighed and turned back to face his brother. Naruto's date with Tsukuyomi, his worst nightmare, would have to wait. His brother needed to be reminded why he was the strongest Uchiha and why he had fought and survived the Third Shinobi Wars at the age of 4. The Uchiha murderer shot himself to his brother with a burst of chakra from his legs. His brother's eyes widened when he found himself in a chokehold with his murderous brother, who had used him as a punching bag with ease. Sasuke gave his brother a weak look, but Itachi just tightened his grip on his neck. Why? How? Are you so strong? Sasuke gasped. His windpipe was struggling to get air into his lungs, and his brain was figuring out that Itachi had grown stronger. How can I beat him if he keeps getting stronger? Itachi started by saying, "You can't win, you stupid little brother," as his Sharingan gaze sank into Sasuke's Sharingan gaze. "You are weak, you are not ready," he said as he slammed Sasuke further into the tree, making him gasp in pain. Itachi leaned in close to Sasuke's ear and asked, "And do you know why?" The Uchiha Avenger felt angry and sick to have his brother so close to him. Itachi whispered in Sasuke's ear, "Because you lack anger." When the two looked at each other again, Sasuke's eyes were wide with fear and surprise. Because his brother's usual 3 Tomo Sharingan eyes had been replaced with a pupil that looked like a shuriken with 3 blades. Itachi said, "You have to learn the difference between our skills the hard way," which made Sasuke panic even more. He clawed at his brother's arm, but it didn't work. He kicked him in the stomach and chest, but it didn't work. He tried everything his panicked mind could think of, but nothing worked. Itachi suddenly said the one word that Sasuke feared the most, and it was the start of his pain. The word, Tsukuyomi. Naruto kneeled, almost like a toad kneels. Kei's no Yaiba aimed completely at the charging wraith. "Here I go ugly." With that, Naruto let a wind blast out of his feet, shooting like a projectile at his objective, spinning like a drill. With a single flick of Kei's no Yaiba, which met the stained katana of the wraith, Naruto changed direction, also sending the wraith away for the strong impact. Flying away, Naruto suddenly found itself in trajectory with the second wraith, who made an upward slash, colliding with Naruto's sword, making him flip several times in the air before landing, turning fast. Naruto shot his hand forward, a blast of air meeting the second wraith head straight on, making it flip in mid-air, while there Naruto used his telekinesis to make the wraith spin more, before slamming it to the ground, hard. When the third wraith cut off his head, Naruto turned around and his eyes got big. Poof. The wraith had never met a ninja, so it was shocked when the headless blonde turned out to be a piece of wood in a puff of smoke. The third wraith turned quickly and screamed like a banshee when Kei's no Yaiba got stuck in its stomach and pinned it to the ground with Naruto right on the end of the blade and a black liquid coming out of its wound. Substitution jutsu freak. Expect the unexpected with a ninja, Naruto said with a hiss as he pulled the blade out and watched in shock as the wraith crashed around before dying. What in the name of the Shoden? He said out loud when he saw that the wraiths were standing up and staring at him. The enchanted blade of a Rayearth can kill these otherworldly creatures, so don't be afraid. The Rayearth blade can kill anything that comes from the dark malice of the Dark One. Naruto's eyes got narrower when he heard that. The way Anima talked about the Dark One, with anger and almost malice, made him wonder what the Dark One and the Rayearths were all about. Rayearth, you will pay for this. Naruto disliked the wraiths even more because their voices hissed, which reminded him of Orochimaru. Naruto yelled and charged at the remaining wraiths. He met the first one and dodged a single swing of its katana. He then jumped, spinning and twirling his Zanbato at the wraith, who began to block the strikes, sparks flying from the blades. Landing behind the wraith, he jumped again and threw Kei's no Yaiba into the air. He was now above the second wraith. Wind release. Wind shuriken storm. Naruto yelled from above the wraith. He spread his arms and sent a bigger hail of wind shurikens to Yugito and Neji. They were all aimed right at the second wraith, which hissed in pain as the shurikens exploded, but something caught Naruto's eye. When the shuriken hit them, it would send out several small bolts. Naruto muttered, "Okay, I know that's not supposed to happen," as he pulled his Zanbato out of the air and looked at the damage he had done to the wraith, whose robes were now more ragged and whose katana had lost its tip. "You didn't mean to, that you've combined your strongest element, wind, with your weakest element, light, which is still young. As a result, you have a combined attack, which is very interesting. No one else on Rayearth has ever done this before. Ninjas are indeed the only ones who know how to control elements in this way." Naruto was kind of proud of himself. It was true that ninjas were masters of manipulating the elements and many other deadly arts, but his deed might have been one that not many ninjas could pull off. "We will kill those you love." Naruto's eyes grew wide when he heard the first wraith behind him. Turning, he saw the blade falling to stab him in the chest. He ducked and rolled to his left, but it was too late to save his life. Gah! It hit him on the left shoulder instead, pinning him to the ground. "You jerk. Wait until I get out of this." Naruto snarled. For a second, a fraction of a second, he thought the wraith that had him pinned actually backed away. Maybe it wasn't used to such defiance from an enemy who was pinned and seemed to be dead. "I like how brave you were, and I'll put those words on your tombstone." When the second wraith raised its katana and got ready to kill Naruto, he turned around and hissed, "No one will go against our master's return." The blade fell slowly, and Naruto's eyes got bigger, not because of the blade itself, but because of what happened next. Slowly, the second wraith's chest erupted with blue chakra, sending it flying away and into the first wraith. The blade was painfully pulled out of the first wraith's shoulder, and then everything went back to normal speed. Both wraiths fell to the ground, but the first one stood back up, while the second one never did. When Naruto turned around again, he smiled a little and said, "And to think that a week ago, you all would have tried to give me a gentle fist in the behind." Sasuke looked around quickly, almost panicking. He was back in his nightmare world, with a red sky, black clouds, and a white moon. Everything was black or white, but everything was backwards. Where the shadows should have been black, they were white, and everything that should have been white was black, including his skin. But what really scared him was not the place itself. He was used to the nightmare world of Tsukuyomiya. It was the place where his brother had decided to torture him. Before the massacre, the old Uchiha compound was beautiful as it was. When he tried to move his legs, he found that he couldn't. When he looked down, he saw that his legs were chained together. Soon, he saw something that made him want to scream but couldn't. Itachi, dressed in his old Anbu armor and holding his old trusty ninjutsu, with his clansmen walking around and talking, unaware that they were about to die. "No!" Sasuke yelled when he saw his parents walking around. "For the next 72 hours, you will see how I kill them all, and every cut and stab that I give them will also be given to you," Itachi said. Sasuke suddenly looked to his left, trying to hide his eyes from what was about to happen. Just to see Naruto there, of all the people. What the? Sasuke turned to his right and saw Sakura there, too. Both of his teammates had bored looks on their faces. Soon, Sakura ran at Itachi, letting out a war cry and jumping towards the assassin with a kunai in her hand. Sasuke yelled, "No!" when he saw that Itachi had been cold enough to stab Sakura in the chest. Sakura was struggling in pain, but when Itachi pulled the blade away, she went limp and fell in a bloody heap. He tried to get to Naruto, who was armed with Kei's no Yaiba, and they had a short kenjutsu battle, which ended when Itachi stabbed his blonde teammate in the chest. But even there, Naruto fought back, cutting Itachi's cheek slightly, which surprised him. Before the blonde died, Sasuke kind of smiled, because Naruto was still unpredictable and fought until the end, even in that nightmare dimension. Then he gasped when he felt the pain that his teammates felt when they died, 2 pierces to their hearts. Soon, the massacre started, and Sasuke started to scream like nothing, as pain shot through his body and blood started to flow freely from his new wounds. After what seemed like an eternity, he looked up and saw that his brother Ino, that monster, had cut off the head of his father and stuck the ninjutsu through the neck of his mother. Then the same thing happened again, this time with Naruto, Sakura, and even some of the Rookie 9 trying to fight the monster that was his brother. They all died, but Naruto was always able to give Itachi a small wound, which was the only one Itachi ever got during the whole thing. After maybe 100 times of looking up, he looked up at his brother, who was hovering over him. He didn't know why, but maybe it was because Naruto's defiance made him do it. Even at the end, he spat at Itachi, who surprised him by avoiding it. "Do your worst, you scumbag," Sasuke yelled, trying to get to his brother and rip him a new one. Itachi sighed and turned around. The clan and the 9 rookies were all ready to fight him. Sigh. There are 71 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds left. Jiraiya laughed as he looked at Kisame and stood up in pain and anger. "You'll pay for that, old man," Kisame said, lifting Samahata and aiming the tip at the toad sage, who only grunted in irritation. "Bite that tongue, whelp, you are far outclassed," Jiraiya hissed, crouching a little, "but if you want to die then so be it, I'll give you a shinobi death," Jiraiya said, glaring at Kisame, whose shark-like teeth flared, and soon he launched to him. There Jiraiya dashed at the ex-swordsman of mist faster than this one was moving, and soon he was under Kisame, his large white mane aimed to his chest. Jiraiya shouted, "Ninja art, wild lion's mane technique." Kisame looked shocked as the spikes on Jiraiya's hair grew. The spikes that were once soft and limp became sharp and hard, all aimed at him. Jiraiya turned off his jutsu with a smirk, and the 5-foot-long spikes fell off of Kisame's body. Kisame fell to the floor, stunned. Jiraiya was shocked when he saw that he had killed an Akatsuki member, but it wasn't the one he wanted or remembered. Instead of the blue-skinned shark swordsman's body, a middle-aged waterfall kunoichi's body was there. Jiraiya cursed as he saw Sasuke gasp and twitch in pain as he fell to the ground and Itachi rub his eyes. "Damn those Akatsuki," he said. "They use sacrificial clones to keep from losing members." With a grunt, he ran at Itachi, who narrowed his eyes at the sudden appearance of the toad sage. "Move over, Jiraiya-sama, I still have work to do," Itachi said coldly. "Although I would love to see you push your brother to the breaking point even more, I can't do that, you see. My new apprentice loves his teammates, even if they are complete asses, so I suggest you bow down and die, because if I don't kill you now, Naruto will, and we both know that you can't stand again, even." Itachi said, "Do your worst." A second later, Jiraiya punched him hard, and Itachi's face erupted in pain. Just as Itachi was about to fight back, Jiraiya buried a kunai in his chest, up to the grip. "I might be a pervert, and I like good sake with hot women and jugs the size of watermelons, but..." Jiraiya said as he buried another kunai into Itachi's chest. This time, Itachi didn't react to the sudden attack with pain or surprise. "One thing I know that bothers me is when people underestimate me, and it bothers me even more when my charge is being hunted by weaklings," Jiraiya said as he pulled the bloody kunai out of Itachi's chest. "Next time, you and your mutant friend better come at your strongest and in your real bodies if you want to live to see another dawn." With that, Jiraiya's foot hit Itachi's windpipe, cracking it and killing the man, who slowly started to confirm Jiraiya's suspicions, and so its face. A ninja of Iwa's face. Someone in Akatsuki can clone its members down to the DNA level. Copying a bloodline trait isn't easy, but it's not impossible either. I might guess that these body clones are used to scout and trick targets and are controlled by the real ones. Good to know I didn't show up in battle much. And to think that a week ago you all would have tried to softly punch me behind. Jiraiya turned around, snapped out of his thoughts, and looked at the cavalry with a small grin, but he had to wonder something. Why did two guards from a Hyuga branch family stand on either side of Naruto? Naruto had never been so happy to see the Hyuga clan before. At first, they didn't like him, but they didn't hate him either. After all, Kyuubi had killed fewer Hyuga than the Uchiha and Inuzuka clans during its rampage. Naruto had done research on how many ninjas and clan members had died when the Yondaime arrived, and he saw that, even though they had lost some people, the Hyuga clan. In any case, the Hyuga, with the exception of Hinata at one point in her life, and a woman with the same hair color had shown to be warmer than the clan as a whole, and that same woman had given him the clothes he wore for nearly 3 years, a baggy white t-shirt with the Hyuga clan crest on it, a pair of capri shorts, and a set of sandals that, unlike the crap he used to wear, were actually durable. But back to the problem at hand, he had never been happier to see clan members, including Hyuga, but he still doesn't know why they came to help him. Fools, if you don't want to live, you can give up your lives. Your blood will mix with the blood of Rayearth on my steel. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the wraith. This one was moving around, and the tip of its katana was making small cuts in the floor, leaving marks that could be seen. He stood up with a grunt, gasping a little from the pain in his arm. It was nothing he had never felt before. Sometimes mental pain is worse than physical pain and far outweighs it. One of the Hyuga helped him stand up and put pressure on his wound, which surprised him. Naruto-sama, please don't overdo it, that Hyuga said. Sama? Naruto asked, grasping Kei's no Yaiba hard, like a cane. As future husband of Hinata-sama, heir of the Hyuga clan, you gain an important position and rank as her husband. The second Hyuga spoke, making Naruto actually blink. Obviously Hinata had forgot telling him that. And as future members of the main branch, we have to protect you, Naruto-sama, said the first Hyuga, taking the gentle fist stance in front of the wraith. The second Hyuga did the same. Both of them said, we will protect you with our lives because it is our duty, but all the wraith did was snort or something similar. I'll break you all for your stupid loyalty to a bad family. Both Hyuga's eyes narrowed. It was one thing for the village pariah to say that their family was a mess, which they knew to be true, as painful as it was, but it was a whole other thing for a hissing sound to say that the Hyuga clan was in decline. You will pay for that slander with your life, said the first Hyuga, charging at the wraith with a chakra-filled palm. With a flick of his wrist, the wraith punched the palm of the first Hyuga, and got ready to stab him, but had to duck when the second Hyuga came at him from the left. While he was ducking, the wraith made a sweep with his katana, planning to cut off their legs. Soon, the wraith let out a wail-like scream and lunged at the first Hyuga, palming the katana away. The first Hyuga tried to disarm the wraith, but this one struck him in the chest with his knee, making him scream as the blade cut him. The second Hyuga didn't waste any time and went to distract the wraith. The wraith easily dodged the palm strikes and even knew where this one would hit. Naruto thought, that thing learns. He was about to run away when the first Hyuga stopped him. Please Naruto-sama, don't get in the way. It's our duty to fight and die for the main family, and that includes you, he said, staring at the wraith as it stabbed the second Hyuga in the right thigh with its katana, making him scream and drop to his knees. Kneel before your conqueror. Your blood will stain my blade, and so will the blood of your clan. There, Naruto snarled and grabbed Kei's no Yaiba hard. He let a wind blast from his feet and launched himself at the wraith, which snarled as it pulled the blade, or tried to, because the second Hyuga grabbed the katana and asked, what's wrong? Are you too attached to your blade? When the wraith looked up, Naruto was flying at him with the blade in his hand. Then it started to look up, down, and all around as it slowly fell. When it hit the ground, it started to roll around in the grass, sometimes seeing its own body, its own beheaded body, pouring black blood. Before it started rolling, it saw the blonde who had given the killing blow. It was clear that it had failed in its goal of killing the Rayearth of Wind, the 5th generation, but the wraith would not fail in this task given to them after they woke up. Rayearth is. The sudden hissing sound of the first wraith's head made Naruto and the two Hyuga open their eyes wide. Fear, for our lord has returned, and soon your blood and the blood of the worlds will be spilled in his name. The return of the Dark One will not be denied. Soon, the wraith stopped talking, letting Naruto know that it was dead. With a sigh of relief, Naruto sat down on the ground and looked up at the sky. "You did well, brat," he heard Jiraiya say. 2 out of 3. "Well done," Jiraiya added, "as if you thought I wasn't ready." Naruto replied, "You weren't, and it's a good thing those 2 Hyuga saved your butt, or you'd be dead by now." Jiraiya said, "There are some fights you can't hope to fight and win on the first try, especially against multiple opponents at your level." He added, "Well, excuse me for not being a Sannin old man." Naruto snapped, falling on his back. "At least that's over." "No," Jiraiya said with a frown. "This is far from over." Itachi opened his eyes and looked at the huge trees in the forest around Konoha. Kisame did the same thing, but he was feeling pain in his chest and rubbed it to see if there were any holes in it. "Damn it, does Leader Sama know how painful it is to feel death?" Kisame growled. "Not really, but if we didn't have such a deep connection with those clones, we wouldn't be able to beat opponents like Jiraiya-sama," Itachi said, looking around and rubbing his neck. "And who the hell are you trying to cheat, eh?" "You felt pain too," Kisame said. Itachi just looked at Kisame coldly. "To me, pain is meaningless, an obstacle to complete a mission to its fullest," Itachi said calmly. "That's the Ambu talking," Kisame whispered, looking around. "So what now?" he asked. Itachi said in a simple way, "We have to go back to AIM because our mission failed, but for now we have something just as important," which made Kisame raise an eyebrow. "Besides the fact that Jiraiya can kick our asses, what do we have that is important?" Itachi turned around and looked into Kisame's shark-like eyes with his Sharingan. He said, "Information." "Ouch, Ba-chan, stop it." Naruto yelled as Tsunade stitched up his shoulder wound. "Well, considering the katana went through both flesh and bone, and the bone shows no sign of damage, I'd say you got lucky. Guess the furball in you has some uses after all." Tsunade replied, "TCH, if it was for me, I'd use it as a rug and the rest for a big coat. My new apprentice brat has to work with me in the hospital from now on. Where I go, she goes," he told Tsunade. "Where are you, you old hag?" Bam. "Ouch, Sakura-chan, what happened?" Naruto asked. "Have some respect for Tsunade Shisho, she is the one who is healing you, Baka. He barely respects Hokage-sama and the others, so what makes you think he will respect one of the 3 legendary ninjas?" asked the first Hyuga, putting his bandaged hand on his chest. "By the way," Tsunade said, "why did 2 guards of the main family decide to help Naruto, who doesn't have much to do with the clan?" She asked this without noticing Naruto's nervous look. "We are protecting a member of the main family. In a couple of years, or maybe less, Naruto Uzumaki is going to marry Hinata Hyuga, which will make him and any children he and Hinata-sama have part of the main branch of the family," the first Hyuga said, shocking both Tsunade and Sakura. "You what?" Sakura yelled, looking at his teammate in shock. Naruto looked at Sakura with a pout and said, "Well, it's a long story, and Hinata is evil. She somehow talked her father and the Ancient Ones into letting us get married." He then asked, "And do you know anything else?" Sakura looked at Naruto, hoping to find something she could use to blackmail him. "I think I'm starting to like her," the pink-haired girl said with a smile. "About damn time," Sakura said, making Naruto blink. What?" Naruto asked. "I was wondering when you would realize she had a crush on you," Sakura said. "Hiyoshi's daughter crushing on the village outcast? Oh man, this is rich," Tsunade said with a smile. You know we're here, right?" asked the second Hyuga as he bandaged his leg. "I don't think she cares much about it," Sakura said, smiling at Naruto. She had a crush on me?" Naruto asked in shock. Soon, the unthinkable happened, and he started to blush like Hinata, which shocked Sakura. "What happened in the forest?" Since Neji tried to kill Hinata and you saved her, you've been acting like her, and she's been acting like you, or a mix of both, Sakura asked, only to meet a blank-eyed Naruto. Naruto, she said as she poked him, and he fell on his back with spiral-shaped eyes. I know this is a sign of the end of the world, but I don't hear the millions of wailing souls, he said. After a week, Naruto walked around the halls of the Hyuga compound, looking for any Hyuga, especially women, or the annoying little Hinata clone known as Hanabi. Since his fight with the Wraiths a week ago, Naruto has been training twice as much with Jiraiya. This has given him more skills, but it has also torn and ruined his clothes beyond repair. This is something every man fears, a shopping spree. He and the other male rookies had been through it when Ino tricked Sakura and Hinata into robbing the local mall. It wasn't a big mall. It was just a bunch of clothing stores for civilians, food courts, and kids' games. Somehow, Sasuke got dragged along, and they all learned one thing: women are scary, especially when there's a sale on clothes. They vowed to never go through that kind of pain again. But that was just the beginning. Since yesterday, he had lost his last pair of clean, undamaged clothes because of his training with Senjutsu and the summoning jutsus. So far, he had summoned a pair of human-sized toads with nasty-looking clubs, which Jiraiya ordered to attack him to test the extent of his wind powers, and to some extent, his newly found lighting powers. Now, there was a funny story about how they found out about it. Naruto had been practicing shaping chakra on the Hyuga yard, alone, or so he thought at the time, when Hanabi suddenly charged at him, yelling and all. By sheer surprise, Naruto raised his hands, but instead of air or his telekinetic blasts, a single bolt of energy shot out of his palm and hit Hanabi. The bolt was enough to stop her, shock her, and make her air stand still. Of course, the stun he used on Hiashi's youngest son cost him 3 pairs of pants and 3 jackets that had been accidentally dyed pink. Now, he doesn't mind the color because it looks good with other colors, but a pink jumpsuit? No way in hell is he going to wear that. He'd rather fight and walk around naked or in his underwear. Of course, he knows that if he does that, Hinata might attack him because she's become more bold. The last time he caught her sneaking into his room and sleeping with him, he didn't mind, but she's getting rather fluffy. But that wasn't why he was hiding and sneaking out of the compound in a black shirt and green shorts. The real reason was that he heard the girls, especially Hinata, planning a mall raid in which he would be involved, and he would rather not be a part of it. He looked around and sighed when he realized there was no one there. Stay where you were, Naru-chan. He stopped because he had been caught. When he turned around, he saw Hinata and at least a dozen other girls about her age, some older and some younger, from both the main group and the branch. You really thought you could leave with those clothes? Hinata asked. Well, I could try. A second later, he was crying and kicking as the girls pulled him away. On a column, Neji shuddered at Naruto's pleas for mercy. The boy had beaten him and stood up to the Hyuga's strongest attacks and still beat the crap out of him. He and Lee had tried to stand up to a woman when they were at the mall, but they had failed. After 5 hours, Naruto hobbled to his room, and behind him, 3 members of the Hyuga branch carried huge bags of clothes while grimacing at the blonde's groans of pain. Why are we carrying his clothes? Asked the first Hyuga to the other 2. Because he endured 5 hours of a mall raid with 12 girls, alone, said the second Hyuga, making the first Hyuga shudder. I feel sorry for him. Since Hinata-sama gained more confidence, it seems she is acting her age, but she hasn't lost her kindness and fairness to us all in the clan compound. We'll just have to wait and see, said the second Hyuga. After all, we're talking about a big change in the clan's ways, and if Hinata-sama is able to do that, many traditions will fall. She will, Naruto suddenly whispered, making all 3 Hyuga look nervous. She has to. After all, she's going to marry me, and ninjas never break their promises, Naruto said slowly as he reached his room. In a flash, he was on top of his bed, and when he saw how soft it was, he just fell over. The 3 Hyuga just stood there and stared. They slowly put the bags on the floor, closed the door, and walked out of the room. The blonde had had a hard day, and he deserved a good night's sleep. Ah, Sakura moaned as she collapsed on her bed, her soft, warm, and welcoming bed, and there she let her sore muscles rest and her small and already depleted chakra reserves recharge. She could feel how her chakra paths and nodes groaned under the stress of restoring the small reserves to their original level, and she damn well felt how her bones junctures groaned more when she turned on her back, but she knew it was all worth it in the end. During the week that Tsunade had her as her apprentice, she had been taught a lot about the human body, such as how it worked, how much chakra each organ needed to work, where pressure points, major veins, and nervous points were, among other things. Also, Tsunade had been teaching her how to use medical chakra to heal wounds, and she had been doing an exercise where she kept a fish alive by just using her chakra. This took her a short time compared to what Tsunade could do, and it was because she didn't have as much chakra as Tsunade did. Because of this, the slug Sanin thought she should build up her reserves, so she gave her an exercise she called Extreme Tree. The task was simple: climb the tree like Kakashi taught her. However, Tsunade would throw all kinds of things at her to make sure she stayed focused. In the long run, she would use more chakra, but the results would be clear. She then started to close her eyes. She wanted to sleep all day, but she knew she couldn't. Right now, she was just giving her body a little rest, since she, Tsunade, and Shizune would be at a formal party tomorrow night where the Hyuga clan heir's future husband would be introduced. She tried to smile, but it hurt her face to do so. She knew who Hinata would marry, and by all that was good and pure, she had already bet on it. She was going to win a lot of money on that bet, unlike her new sensei, who always had bad luck. Kakashi whispered to himself, "What am I going to do to you, Sasuke?" He had one narrowed eye on the unconscious body of Sasuke Uchiha, who had just laughed at the copycat ninja who was charging at his sensei with murder in his eyes. Kakashi just sighed and sidestepped to avoid Sasuke's lunge. With the speed of an elite Junin, he hit Sasuke in the stomach with his knee, sending him flying backwards. He landed hard on his back and rolled away, clutching his stomach. "You clearly disobey me," Kakashi said. "When I specifically told you that you wouldn't leave this area until the day of the exams," Kakashi said sternly, walking slowly towards Sasuke. Sasuke struggled to stand up, but his knees and chakra gave out, leaving him with only raw resolve, which he didn't have because of what had happened in the last week. "You knew this month was important to you because you were going to fight someone much stronger than you in Naruto," Kakashi said, finally stopping where Sasuke was kneeling. "You knew you were going to face someone much stronger than you in Naruto, and you also knew that Naruto would have grown stronger by this time, so he would be on par with Gaara. But your stupid pride had to come before your common sense, right?" Sasuke growled. "Gaara is an opponent of care, who must be dealt with care. Training and squeezing every single second of this month in your training was and still is fundamental if you hope to even walk out with all your limbs intact, unlike Rock Lee, I assure you, Sasuke. Think for once with your head instead of that little thing you call pride and wonder if you are really as great as you think you are, because the way I see it, you are still a rookie, as green as the grass on your face," Kakashi snapped. "And your performance last week proves it, you are still not ready to face Itachi, and hopefully you never will be." He then walked away, saying, "We are done with today's training, rest and make sure you are ready for." "What do you mean by, hopefully?" Sasuke asked with a gasp. His eyes were no longer on the Sharingan. They were just looking at Kakashi's one eye. "You are still not ready. Itachi lived and fought during the Third Shinobi Wars. He forged himself on the blood of both Iwa and AIM ninjas who fought against us, Suna and Kumo. He also lived and fought during the Kyuubi Rampage, and he is the youngest ninja to ever graduate from the academy and the youngest Anbu captain ever. His skill is far beyond mine, I'm afraid, and now that he... In my eyes, and in his eyes, you are nothing but a pebble in his path. I don't know why he goes after Naruto, maybe because he's a big threat to the group, I don't know. But I do know that Itachi is more interested in Naruto, and if you try to stop him again, he will finish what he's doing in the Uchiha compound and kill you," Kakashi said. Slowly, Sasuke started to pull himself together. He stared at the place where his sensei used to stand. His most basic and dark emotions were bubbling, boiling, and ready to burst out of him. The sting of his seal slowly grew stronger, and with one last breath and a painful stab of the seal, Sasuke screamed, letting all of his emotions out into the sky. Near a tree, a little farther than expected, Kakashi grimaced as Sasuke's angry scream. He hated to act as he acted, but it was necessary. Sasuke had to realize that not all fights could be won with his skill and his stupid revenge fueling him. Unlike Naruto or Sakura, he lacked that little innocent side in which both had, one to become stronger, one to reach a seemingly unreachable goal, both dreams and wishes driving them farther and farther of Sasuke's own skills. But of course, Kakashi remembered that Itachi had killed Sasuke's innocence with that genjutsu, leaving nothing but an empty, angry shell. He hoped that his talk with Sasuke had helped him see things more clearly. But, to his disappointment, and to finish the failure he had started when he didn't train Sakura and Naruto and didn't act as a sensei, it didn't work. He would learn this the hard way much, much later. Tsunade had been to the morgue twice. Once to look at the mangled body of her little brother, Nawaki, and another time to carry the body of her fiancé, Dan. Both of them had died with the necklace she was wearing around their necks and the stupid dream of becoming Hokage. Yes, she thought it was stupid. That dream and that damn necklace had already taken a lot of people from her life. Everyone who had worn that necklace and said they wanted to be Hokage had died, no exceptions. When she was called to the hospital about a week ago, she thought the blonde man she had bet on had died. To her surprise, he was pretty much alive and kicking, with just a stab wound that hadn't reached the bone, and the flesh was already showing signs of cellular regeneration. She kept that information to herself because she didn't know how the Hyuga present, the Hyuga heiress, and her newest apprentice would react to the news of his cellular healing. She was surprised to learn that both girls knew what really happened to Kyuubi, and to top it off, the brat was lucky enough to marry the Hyuga heiress, who was anything but weak and meek as the stories said. Oh, she was going to have a lot of fun making fun of Hiyashi about the hyperactive blonde-haired Byakugan users who were running amok in the quiet compound. But back to the topic at hand, there were many reasons why she hated the morgue. Sometimes it made her think of the faces of people she loved who had died, and sometimes it made her think of other people who had lost loved ones and were crying on that cold metal table. But now she had 3 reasons to like the morgue. In front of her lay the 3 wraiths that had attacked Naruto. 2 of them had been killed by his sword, which was amazing, and the 3rd had been killed by a Hyuga. It was strange, but for a medic ninja of her caliber, working with the bodies of 3 legendary beings, even ones as infamous as the wraiths, was a chance she didn't often pass up. She was also wondering why Naruto's sword hurt and killed them when it didn't hurt or kill other people, like Neji Hyuga, for whom it just blocked his chakra and froze his system. She would say it was because the blade was magical, but... Okay, Tsunade, she said to herself as she put on a white robe and gloves. Her hair was in a single bun and held in place by a hat. This is your first autopsy in a long time. Don't freeze, she told herself as she put on a mask and grabbed a scalpel from a tray. Don't freeze, woman. They are wraiths, not people. Their blood can't freeze you, she told herself as she tore away the black cloth to reveal skin as white as snow. They aren't people, so they don't count, she told herself as she made the first cut with her scalpel. After 3 hours. Hiruzen and Jiraiya were bored as they waited outside the autopsy room in the morgue of Konoha's hospital. After all, a traditional autopsy takes longer than one done by a shinobi using jutsu, but for someone as careful as Tsunade, an autopsy done with jutsu is boring and doesn't give her the results she wants. Soon, the autopsy room's doors opened, and Tsunade walked out. Her once white robe was covered in a black substance, and she threw away her gloves and the robe near the incinerator, which is standard procedure. Since the blood was from a foreign body, Kami has no idea what that black blood can do or what kind of rare bacteria it has. So, Tsunade, Sarutobi said, how did it go? Well, I worked with those bodies for 3 hours, and I'll say this. They really are the wicked of the Dark One, she said, sitting down next to the 2 men. Pale skin under their clothes, severe muscle atrophy, bone structure degeneration, blood vessels clogged with coagulated blood, black blood. The only thing that worked in them was their hearts, which is directly connected to the spinal cord, which might explain why the head of that wraith spoke to Naruto before it died. By all means they are reanimated corpses, their faces. Ah, they made Orochimaru look like a hot muffin, Tsunade said. This, Dark One, uses a strange power to change the internal structure of the wraiths and then puts something in them that dies when they are killed by a Rayearth blade. I saw this kind of energy on the wraith the Hyuga killed. That thing is dead, and the energy is slowly fading, compared to the whole energy purge Naruto's blade does to them when it kills them, she said, then looking at the floor. Why him? Tsunade asked, making her teammate and sensei look at her strangely. I heard stories of them. My grandfather told me stories about the Rayearths, their power, their deeds, and why they are chosen. True. Rayearth Knights are chosen at birth by the Queen of Crystalia, so when they reach a certain age or certain events happen, they can then access their hidden powers, and when deemed fit, the Queen calls them to Crystalia. Yes, everyone knows their story, so it's no wonder that the whole world is looking at Naruto-kun right now. The idea that the demon jailer, who was born evil, is now one of the noble Rayearth Knights is like something out of a fairy tale. He's not a demon who became a hero. He was always a hero, Hiruzen said with a smile. Yeah, and soon everyone will think he's the luckiest man alive because he's going to marry Hiishi's oldest daughter. Tsunade's eyes grew wide and she shut her mouth, but the damage was already done. No way, Jiraiya said. No way. His shocked face turned into a smile as he continued, that's my boy. Marrying the Hyuga princess, hell, he'll be living with the hottest women around. That's my apprentice. Jiraiya said, acting like he was crying. I can see a bestseller here. If you do it, I promise you a painful end. No. Temari gasped, her eyes darting around her dark room. She was in her room on Suna. For once she was glad for the thick walls on the room. She had gasped loudly, and truth be told, she would die if Konkaru ever caught her like that, weak, scared, vulnerable. She had built herself a reputation as a ruthless kunoichi, one that she would put to the test in the upcoming battle against the blonde Maelstrom. The name Naruto sent a chill down her spine. It wasn't because he was a windlord like her and their match would be decided not by jutsus but by close combat skills, which she wasn't as good at as Naruto. Instead, it was the same thing that had been waking her up since she, Konkaru, and Gaara had returned to Suna to train and get ready for battle. Since she got back, she kept having the same dream, and each time it was more real than the last. In her dream, the attack failed, Suna ninjas were crushed, Konoha barely had any casualties, Auto ninjas were completely wiped out, but that wasn't what scared her. What scared her was who was leading the attack. The blonde man called the Maelstrom was in front of her, holding a huge sword. At his feet were Suna and Auto ninjas of all ranks, groaning and defeated. He was surrounded by two women, one in a very revealing armor and the other in what looked like monk robes, but their faces were covered with gold masks with green visors. Each woman held a different weapon, and both had pointy ears. She then saw. Soon, her eyes widened when she saw that the blonde's body was covered in armor and his face was covered by a strange metal cover on his mouth, covering his nose and nose bridge, and she noticed that his helmet was like the one the Nindam Hokage wore. His uncovered eyes were then covered by a green crystal, giving him a scary look, and he rushed at her with the huge blade, stabbing her and drawing blood. She woke up in pain and fear. Temari sighed and flopped back onto her bed. She looked up at the ceiling with a furrowed brow and closed her eyes, hoping that the dream she had was just that, a dream. But that didn't happen. She had never heard that dreams are a way to see the future, and in a world with bijus and people like Shinobi, it wasn't such a crazy idea that dreams could tell the future. The next evening, Hanabi laughed when she saw Naruto, her soon-to-be brother-in-law, fidgeting in the kimono he was wearing. The kimono was white, with orange spiral-like designs in the fabric and blue endings in the cuffs of the kimono. He was also wearing a blue obi around his waist, traditional civilian sandals, and his hair was down and out of his headband. The only thing he was wearing from his usual clothes was. He looked like he could die at any second, which is why he was sweating like crazy, looking around the room, and twitching his right hand to get Kei's no Yaiba out of its seal and get out of his situation. At the time, he was surrounded by her father, her grandparents, Neji, who had finally gotten better, Hinata, who had to be close to him, and the elders, who, to her amusement, were not happy about him being presented as the future husband of her sister. Hinata sweetly clung to Naru-kun's arm and said, "Don't worry, Naru-kun. Everything will be fine, you'll see. Relax? Damn it woman, you broke me the news of this just an hour ago, when the party was set and I was being pushed into a kimono," Naruto hissed, making a pout to the giggling girl. "I should just bust out like a barbarian," he muttered. "Try lover boy, and I assure you I will drag you back to me, Hinata said. There Naruto blushed. He was certain of one thing. Hinata with confidence to spare is scary, and in a way hot, to him, not that he is ready to admit it. Remember, Naruto-san, today is a big day for the clan and for you, Hiashi said. And, if I may ask, how do I look? I'm about to be introduced as Hinata's future husband, and Kami can see who is outside right now. Soon you'll be part of the clan, and that means you'll have to keep up a certain image and reputation. Pretty cool. Hiashi said, as a result, you will have both a political image and a shinobi image to uphold. Naruto replied, no problem. Not many genin my age are able to use shadow clones, a forbidden jutsu, and turn out to have a rare elemental affinity. True, said Akira. But remember, a shinobi's true power doesn't come from the strength of his or her jutsus alone. It doesn't? Naruto asked. No, a true shinobi, like Kakashi or even Itachi, knows that our allies are the shadows, that we shouldn't have a name or a face to be recognized, that we are the whisper on the wind and the blade on the night, that we kill in the embrace of shadows and walk unpunished by it. Sigh. Times have really changed since I took up a blade, Akira said. I was wondering that. How old are you, and how old is the village? You speak very differently and explain shinobi in a different way than Iruka-sensei did once. It's obvious, Naruto said. I was born and raised at a time when clans were just coming together and hidden villages were just forming, all because of Hashirama-sama's dream of peace. My father raised me the way he was raised, as if we. I may be stiff, but I'd rather be like this than a loudmouth in orange, he said. Hiashi replied, dude, you're wearing a bathrobe. Is a traditional clan head grabs that Hinata will wear in the future. Right, and I'm a pink fluffy bunny, Hinata said. Right, and I'm more like a pink fluffy chibi fox, Naruto replied. Sayuri told them to stop. Listen up, boy, she said. Tonight is important for both the clan and your goal of becoming Hokage. There are several powerful political figures coming, including Sannin, the Hokage, his advisors, and former teammates. Danzo is also coming, and much to our surprise, Sasuke Uchiha is coming, along with your classmates, whose parents are on the council. Sayuri Ba-chan. I worked hard to Naruto-kun to finally notice my feelings, and you think I will toss them aside like nothing? Hinata asked. The heart is volatile, there are things he can't offer you, Sayuri added. She's just tell me that you hate me and that's it, Ba-chan. Not that I am no use to it, Naruto muttered, crossing his arms and glaring to the space in front of him. Hinata, on the other hand, sighed and decided she would have a nice long talk with her grandmother. I think that's enough, mother. He understands pretty well his position and yours regarding his tenant, and he knows that it will bring both good and bad things to the clan. Do not remind him further of it, I think 12 years of it are enough reminder. Whatever the case may be, it is Hinata's decision in the end, not ours or the. Thanks for being honest, Naruto said, sneering as he felt a small breeze and narrowing his eyes. This didn't go unnoticed by a group of Byakugan users who are trained to read a person's body reactions, especially the one on their face. Hinata asked, Naru-kun, what's wrong? He just said, Sasuke isn't in the room, and neither is Kakashi-sensei. They're all betting on who will be the lucky jerk who gets married to Hinata. You've got your own fanboys club, haven't you? Hinata laughed, but then she looked confused. Naru-kun, how do you know all that? Is like what happened in the Forest of Death? She asked, and to be honest, Neji wanted to know the same thing. After all, Naruto had found his team first, even though they hadn't left any clues. Still, Naruto had found them, so he knew they were a good team. The Hyuga genius thought, does that mean he can feel chakra and identify it? Or does it have something to do with how much he likes wind? The adults were also thinking the same thing, since they were in a hall and the only thing they could feel was a small breeze. Unless, Hiashi thought. But of course, as Rayearth of Wind, he has a deeper connection to wind, so he can feel and identify anyone who lets out even a small gasp. He thought with a strange smile, whoever is not satisfied by this, is Hinata's decision. You two wait here until I call you forth. Neji, Akira, Sayuri, and Hiyashi then went to greet the guests, leaving Naruto with Hinata. So, Naruto said, trying to start a conversation. "What do I need to do out there?" he asked. Hinata smiled and said, "It's simple, Naru-kun. Bow respectfully with me when called upon, thank everyone for coming in a formal way, and then talk to all the guests. After all is proper, and you get to know people in the high circles of Konoha politics, even they will help you reach your dream faster. After that, we'll live together, and in 2 years we'll get married. Hopefully, I'll be able to give you babies in a few more years," she said, setting him on fire. BBB babies? Yes. And don't faint now, because tonight is an important event. I like you. Naruto said quickly, not even waiting for Hinata to finish her sentence, and he smacked his lips on hers. She was so surprised that she didn't answer the kiss until Naruto broke it, and she started to seek his lips, only to pout when she couldn't get a second one. For reasons, Naruto had been blushing like her in the past few days, which made her laugh at the irony. Now I'm the brave one and he's the shy one. That's so strange to see, she thought. Naruto didn't look at her or talk to her for a whole minute until she spoke. She asked, "Why the kiss now?" It wasn't that she didn't like it. She was just curious. At that moment, Naruto turned to her and smiled. What better time than now? That answered her question and taught her something out of the blue. When life is over so quickly. Ino fidgeted with her purple kimono, which was held in place by a single pink obi tied around her waist. Sakura stood straight next to her, wearing a single pink kimono with cherry blossom petals woven into the fabric and a white obi tied around her waist. The two girls were actually together because they didn't know anyone else. All around her, she saw boys wearing the same plain black and white kimono. Their parents in Sakura's case, Tsunade, were the only ones not wearing kimono. Now, Ino was surprised when Sakura showed up with the legendary healer, and she was even more surprised when Sakura told her she was her new apprentice. The only person who wasn't there was Naruto, who was going to be heartbroken when he found out that the girl who loved him was going to get married to a stranger. But that's what happens when he doesn't pay attention and tries to get her, too. She also felt guilty because she hadn't done anything about her feelings. She saw her father chatting with Choji's and Shikamaru's fathers, surely about the old times, although there was not much to talk about when their time was on the wars. At the side of the Yondaime Hokage, Ino still found hard that their own leader, the most powerful ninja of them all, the Yondaime Hokage, was unable to defeat the Kyuubi, the Wandering Calamity, and had to seal it on Naruto of all people to stop the nine-tailed fox. But unlike those who knew and chose to blame Naruto, Ino, with the help of Shikamaru and Choji, decided to focus on learning everything she could about the Kyuubi. She was sure of one thing: there was a lot to learn about the Kyuubi. First, she wanted to know what Kyuubi really was, so she asked her dad. He didn't try to avoid the question because he knew Ino knew that Naruto was holding Kyuubi prisoner. Instead, he told her that Kyuubi was just a super-concentrated chakra sentient form that looked like a mythical nine-tailed fox, which is often thought of as a female trickster. However, Kyuubi was neither a trickster nor a woman. Ino. Then they asked to other ninjas why the Yondaime had used Naruto as the jailer of Kyuubi. Of course they asked to people who they could trust, and didn't hate Naruto, namely Iruka-sensei and a friend of her father, Ibiki. Both men had told them the same: an orphan would never be scorned by the family, and asking a baby to a family was enough hard, knowing the hard life the baby would carry. Naruto childhood was no fairy tale. That didn't work out the way they thought it would, so they asked a harder question: why would Kyuubi come to Konoha? There was no reason to come, and a chakra-based beast like Kyuubi had no reason to come either. What they found out was not nice. Kyuubi is drawn to places where malice is strong. Something inside Konoha must have called Kyuubi, both men said at the same time. It freaked out the new Ino Shikacho team that something inside Konoha had called Kyuubi instead of something outside Konoha. They thought that a vengeful missing nin or a rival village had called Kyuubi in order to destroy Konoha. Everything was going well until Shikamaru asked the teacher at the academy and the master of interrogation if Kyuubi could be controlled by someone else. Don't tell anyone. But when Madara Uchiha deflected Konoha and faced Shodem Hashirama in the Valley of the End, he called Kyuubi to help him. Even with the fox by his side, he lost to Hashirama and was killed. I think the Uchiha clan had a way to control Kyuubi or any of the other 8 beasts, but with Madara dead and the clan almost extinct, we may never know. Ino was freaked out by the idea that a clan could control the 9-tailed beasts at will. No one should have that kind of power, but then Ino thought of something. But what if the Yondaime sealed Kyuubi to keep it out of the hands of greedy people? Naruto is as stubborn as a mule, hates the fox with all his being, and refuses to use its chakra, which would anger many people who want to use Naruto as a weapon. Ino snorted at the thought of Naruto being turned into a mindless, cold, and merciless weapon. It was scary and funny at the same time. No one could imagine Naruto without his fox-like grin and bright blue eyes. A stone-cold Uzumaki with a permanently serious face and dull eyes was funny. In a weird way to her and everyone else who knew him. She didn't realize that other people would die on the spot if they thought of that. She looked around a little more, to get Naruto's mind off of weapons, and saw a few nobles from outside Konoha. How does she know? Let's call it a sixth sense and keep it that way, along with the samurai guarding them. She also saw the Hokage with Mitokado Haruma and Utatane Kaharu, 2 of his old teammates. Both elders looked stern, but they had to. They had lived through 2 shinobi wars and seen enough horrors to scar anyone for life, the afterlife, and reincarnation. She then saw a boy who was almost surrounded by 4 samurai. He had jet black hair and a hat that she could describe as Lee style. His eyebrows weren't too big, and he had strange silver pupil eyes, pale skin, and freckles on his cheeks. He was wearing yellow baggy pants, a white shirt, and a red polka-dotted white vest. But that wasn't the most outlandish thing about him. What was outland? Ino really wanted to know who that guy was because he was wearing expensive jewelry and, from what she could see, his samurai guard was well paid and, hopefully, well trained as well. You don't spend a lot of money on security for nothing. That's Mamoru-sung, of the Sung family. When Ino heard Shino say this, she almost had a heart attack. Sung family? Isn't that a family from somewhere else? She asked. Yes, they are from Grass Country. Mamoru-san is the only heir to the Sung family's wealth, so he is expected to get married, Shino said, noticing that Kiba had also joined. Hey, Shino, the loser came back for more, Kiba said, which made Ino raise an eyebrow. Came back for more? She asked. After our team placement, Hinata asked us to come to her house for lunch. When we got there, the next thing we knew, he, Kiba said, pointing to Mamoru, had come to ask Hinata's hand in marriage and had brought all kinds of gifts, including slaves. On the underworld, the Sung family is known for being slave traders. They have a slave ring, and stories say they made deals with Gatu of the Gatu Trading Company. How the hell do you know all that? Sakura asked this time. Being close to Ino, he had heard everything Shino said, so the boy just adjusted his glasses and said, "It's amazing what you can hear in a bar full of drunk ninja." Shino added, "Okay, so what does Mamoru have to do now?" Sakura asked. Oh yeah, and here's the funny part. According to the clan, Hinata and Mamoru can meet. Hinata moves toward him, and I'll tell you, he thought she was going to kiss him or something, because he was puckering his lips. Oh, but he got a slap, and a hard one. The guy was so shocked by it, and so were the guards. Here's what made me really afraid of getting on Hinata's bad side. She says to him, "You can't hope to buy love, especially when you buy it with human lives." But I wonder who won her in the end, Ino said. Sakura and Shino both gave her a strange smile. Oh, you're going to find out, Ino, and I promise it will be something you never thought of, Sakura said, smiling the whole time. Before Ino asked, Hiyashi Hyuga, with Akira and Sayuri on either side and the elders and a young father named Neji behind him, was watching over a small girl with brown hair who was probably Hinata's sister. Soon, everyone in the room stopped doing what they were doing. Choji and Shuza stopped eating from the buffet, Shikamaru and Shikaku stopped looking at Well, somewhere, mostly because they were afraid of Shikaku's wife, Yoshino, Kiba, Sume, and Hana, Kiba's sister, stopped petting and bragging about their dogs to the most important nobles in the room, because one of the most powerful people in the village politics had just come in. I thank you all for being here, Hiashi said. As you all know, this is a very special day that only comes around once every 20 to 30 years in our clan. Maybe I'll do it again in 5 years or more, since I have 2 daughters. At that point, Ino saw that the little girl with Neji was, as she had thought, Hinata's sister. As you all know, my daughter Hinata Hyuga, who will be the next head of the Hyuga clan, has finally chosen a man to marry and, hopefully, join her on the short but amazing journey that is life, Hiashi told a group of genin, who were stunned. As a shinobi, she is now legally an adult, and in her line of work, everyone's life is much shorter than average. Today, she takes the first step to make sure the clan line continues, with all the benefits and responsibilities that comes with it. Hiashi added, it's true that our clan is different from the nearly extinct Uchiha clan, more numerous than the Aburame and Inuzuka clans, but we're not perfect. Our flaws were. My daughter has a long and hard road ahead of her. She will have to change in order to adapt to a world that is always changing. Even though our jobs don't change, we do, so it is her job to change, Hiashi said. Now, as for her future husband, 10 men came with gifts, promises of wealth, political positions, and power, but she didn't choose any of them. Instead, she followed her heart and chose a boy who neither had political power nor a lot of money. Sarutobi raised an eyebrow. He knew who Hiashi was going to bring, and he couldn't help but grin. He didn't promise us power, money, or political power. Instead, he promised her what she wanted most, change, Hiashi said. Change of our old ways, change of how we see the world, change that many want but can't get right now. Even Neji raised an eyebrow at that. This change needs new blood, new ideas, and new eyes, which I don't have. I made many mistakes with my daughter, even though I was trying to follow the rules. But as her father, I can't ignore her happiness just to follow the rules. So with great pride, I, Hiashi Hyuga, the current leader of the Hyuga clan, present to you all my daughter Hinata Hyuga and her future husband Naruto Uzumaki. Those last 2 words brought so many things that made many people shocked. No way. That's what Ino said. Who said, Shanaru, I won the bet. Both the father and the son said, that blonde is a pain. I can't believe it, Kiba said at first. Shino said, I somehow saw that coming. That's my apprentice. Oh yeah. As usual, Jiraiya bragged about something great his apprentice had done, just like he did when he told Orochimaru that his apprentice Minato had become Hokage. Slowly, Hinata and Naruto walked in, Hinata holding Naruto's arm, who looked a little confused. Hey. Yo, Naruto said, slowly pulling away from Hinata, and then he bowed to everyone and said, I thank you all for being here. That one act of good manners made everyone in the room look at him with wide eyes. Choji said, it's official, the world is about to end. I'm here, you know, Naruto said with a twitch in his eye and a look in his eyes that everyone knew well. No matter how hard he tries to act in a controlled and polite way, he's still just plain old and very prankster vengeful Naruto. After 30 minutes. Mamoru looked at the blonde and laughed at how he talked to the other guests with Hinata by his side. Hinata was his Hinata, not the blonde's, because Mamoru had seen her before the blonde decided to call her his. This made Mamoru very angry, because in his mind, no one had the right to his Hinata. Mamoru was angry as he watched Naruto talk to the old Hokage and the children of other clan leaders. Maybe that's why Hinata chose him in the end, because he had friends in high places in Konoha politics and shinobi life, but not outside of Konoha like he did. Maybe that's why Hinata never accepted him, because he wasn't a warrior, a shinobi, and, most importantly, he had friends in high places. But he would never let Hinata mix with a commoner. She was a woman, and women needed to learn their place in the world, either the right way or the wrong way. With that, crack up mess up, vision and idea in mind, he made his way toward where the blonde and the Hyuga heiress were, not realizing that he was messing with someone he shouldn't mess with at all. Both the blonde and the brunette enjoyed talking with their friends, and she was surprised to meet not one but two legendary ninjas who knew Naruto. That's when she knew she'd made the right choice. Naruto had the looks, though he wasn't as good looking as Adonis, he had the drive to keep going even when everything was against him, he could change people for the better, and he had crazy stamina, too. Soon, she felt Naruto's arm around her waist, and as she leaned on his chest, she couldn't help but let out a happy sigh. Naruto was almost the same height as her, and it felt strange to touch his chest instead of his shoulders. She looked up and narrowed her eyes. Her last suitor had come back for more, and he had the nerve to hug her in front of Naruto-kun. Well, he was going to find out the hard way how to be polite. Hinata pushed him away and walked over to Naruto, who looked at her strangely. "Who is that guy?" he asked. "A jackass," was all she could say. Just then, she felt a pull on her arm, and when she turned, Mamoru was standing there with a serious face. Mamoru asked Hinata, "What do you think you're doing with him?" Hinata laughed and pushed Mamoru's arm away, saying, "He's my future husband, so why can't I be with him?" "You have no rights to me." Mamoru said, "Tisk, I don't need rights with someone like you or that commoner," which made Hinata scowl and growl. "He may be a commoner, but he's more man than you." Everyone in the room winced at that comment. It was official. Hinata was a firecracker, crazy as hell, and a perfect copy of her mother. "You dare talk about me, your future husband, like that, you wench!" Mamoru yelled, trying to slap Hinata. Keyword. Tried. The moment he raised his hand, Naruto was already in front of him, and even though Naruto was shorter than Mamoru, a fully grown teenager, he wasn't scared of him. Mamoru just snorted and lowered his hand, but he kept a close eye on Naruto. "Move, well, my girl and I have things to do," he said as he tried to get to Hinata, but Naruto stopped him. "Yours? I don't see your name in her, and she's not an object, she's a person, so behave," he said sharply. "You're just a single ninja who happens to know her by chance," he said with a smirk. "I bet she's doing this out of pity and plans to break up with you after this." Hinata hissed, "Bite your tongue, you scumbag. I love him, I don't love you." "You should have known that a long time ago," she snapped. By this time, everyone could hear the small argument. Hinata asked, "Why do you insist?" "I'm not interested in slave traders and thugs like you, and the Hyuga clan won't work with animals like you." The elders nodded in agreement, which she took as a sign that she was right. "What does a woman like you know? Your place is in a house with kids, and other than that, no one is better than me," Mamoru said, pointing to his guard. "No, Naruto is far superior than you," Hinata snapped. In that moment Mamoru looked at his samurai guard, "Dispose him," saying that in front of all the Hyuga main family meant that he was damn sure Naruto would die. Of course he forgot two things. 1. Samurai don't use chakra, just speed and flash-like strikes to take their opponents down. There is much normal training can do to speed a samurai. 2. Ninjas cheat. Mamoru-sung was shocked to see Naruto raise both of his hands. Somehow, his 4 samurai were pushed away and landed on a wall, where they began to float. The wood behind them broke, and they found themselves outside the room. For his part, the Sung heir growled, then gulped when he found himself on the end of the biggest sword he had ever seen. "Now let's get the facts straight. I am a genin with chakra reserves like a junin, a forbidden jutsu, 2 rare elements, and to top it off, the biggest sword ever known. I am short-tempered and I am angry at you. The question you have to ask yourself is, do you feel lucky?" Mamoru laughed at that comment, but he knew he was outmatched. With a sigh, he turned his back on the blonde, a small blonde who had a blade bigger than him, but then he stopped and looked at Naruto. "She will be mine. One way or another." Mamoru then left the room, probably to pick up his fallen guard. Hinata sighed in frustration as she watched the boy leave. Men. Why do they think women are things? It is obvious his education was based on seeing people as objects, Shino spoke, so don't amaze yourself by him trying to win you again, by force it needed. That mere word was enough to make Hinata narrow her eyes. "She ain't no trophy Shino," Naruto snapped. "To you she isn't, that to Mamoru she is the ultimate prize. After that incident, the party went all down to midnight, almost all forgetting Mamoru's shameful act, but not his words. The carriage sped up, and Mamoru scowled angrily from inside. How dare that woman turn him down? Many women would kill for this prize? Oh, but she would soon learn that no one can stand up to a Sung, and the blonde would be sorry he messed with Gato-sama. Damn that blonde, I swear I'll kill him, Mamoru said as he looked around and saw how fast the trees were moving. You should get rid of those thoughts, a voice said from inside the carriage. Since Mamoru was the only one in the carriage, the driver didn't seem surprised or scared to hear the voice. Demoness, Mamoru hissed. You really think you can kill him? A Rayearth? Yes, said Demoness, which made Mamoru sneer. But there's no proof of that, he said. Demoness said, Fool, your pride makes you blind. The blade, the glove, and his natural connection to wind and lightning are all signs of the Rayearth of wind, and not just any Rayearth, but the 5th generation. The wind of change. Just like the queen said. I don't care about what the queen said, I want Hinata, Mamoru said. Yes, the girl is a prize worth of kings, but to get a prize like that, you'll have to fight like a king, and you're just a fool pretending to be one, Demoness said. At that point, Mamoru lost all his patience and lunged at Demoness. That is, until Demoness grew 3 long, black claws and pointed them at Mamoru's neck, ready to stab him. Mind your manners, whelp. I am far better than you or any other samurai your weak money can buy. Remember your place and role, he said as his claws went back into his hands. Keep giving us slaves, and we'll keep paying you. Gato was killed, the bridge on Wave was finished, ending the blockade on the water, and the village is now rebuilding thanks to the money made from trade, and they owe it all to the team to which that damned blonde belongs, said Mamoru. This will cut you off from a lot of money, Demoness's voice could be heard all over the carriage. That's why you're so easy to control, Demoness thought, doing something his lord would love. Getting the seed to grow. This time, the night was different. The sky was clear, but the moon didn't shine and there were no stars. All he could see were his hands in the grass where he had been for 3 hours. With a growl, he let his emotions get the best of him, causing the seal around his cursed mark to break. He didn't notice that the X in the middle of the mark started to glow purple, stick to the cursed mark, and make it worse. He didn't care that the cursed mark was tied to Orochimaru or that what the X did to the cursed mark put Orochimaru and everyone else who had been marked by him in a world of pain that would last forever. He didn't care about any of that because now he had power, real power. He raised his sight with a smirk, and his Sharingan had changed. Now, instead of a pinwheel, it looked like an atom. This power is mine. After Itachi and Orochimaru deflected the attack, Konoha was about to get hit with its worst blow yet, and no one would notice until it was too late. On the day of the tests, Temari fidgeted as she looked at Baki. They had been in Konoha for about 3 days, and the idiot had to kill someone. Luckily, it was a spy, the proctor of the second part of the exams, who knew the plans for the invasion, so the plan would go off without a hitch. Still, she couldn't get rid of the images from her dream. She could see the blonde killing all of the invaders with no mercy, which she couldn't blame him for because she would do the same thing if someone broke into her house. But that would end when he, the Hyuga girl, and the Uchiha were spared in the exams. The Hyuga and Uchiha were spared because of their bloodlines, and the blonde was spared because he had an unnatural affinity for wind. Any child of his would definitely have his bloodline, as it was a less cruel way to gain the loyalty and bloodline traits of captured enemies from destroyed villages. Since Otto wanted to destroy all of Konoha, they couldn't do much to stop him, but they could save a small group of people. At first, they would try to escape and kill them, but in the end, they would give in, knowing that it was either death and oblivion or life and continuity. The choice was pretty clear. With a heavy sigh, Temari picked up her fan and looked at all the toys her brother had put in it. She had been told to hold back and save energy for the invasion, even if it meant losing the match. But Temari had her own plans. No holding back, all-out battle, no mercy, because she knew he wouldn't be so kind once he realized his home was being attacked. So, instead of holding back, she would match his power with her own, wind user. She tied her fan to the obi of her clothes and headed out for what would be her biggest battle and most important moment as a ninja. On the edge of the Konoha forest, right at the end of the Konoha detection system, a strange energy portal about the size of a door opened. Thunder started to form around it, and soon after, two women stepped out. The light around the portal made it impossible for anyone there to see their faces, but they could see their silhouettes. As soon as the two figures came out of the portal, it started to glow more and more. "Sister, are you sure he's here?" "Yes, sister, our king is here, and it's our job to get him." "But sister, wouldn't it be bad to forcefully take him away?" "The end justifies the means, remember that. Our home is in danger, and if we have to drag our king even if it means threatening those he loves, then so be it. The safety of our home is more important than his wishes." "I don't know. I think we should talk to him. We have nothing to lose by talking to him and telling him what's going on." "We can't waste time talking, you're still young, so remember this. Our mission is more important than anything else," said the second woman. "The fourth rule," the first woman said, her head moving up. "Yes, I know it goes against our nature, but our home needs us. Crystalia needs him, we can't let our feelings hold us back, we have to block them, because that's the only way you can hope to complete a mission. Now let's go, our liege is waiting." With that, the second figure started to walk away, leaving the first woman behind, who just sighed. "I hope we're doing the right thing, sister," she said, and then she started walking toward her sister. The energy portal closed behind them. Naruto rubbed his hands together as he sat in a lotus position and looked at the clothes Hinata and the other Hyuga girls had bought him when they dragged him to buy new clothes. They were brand new clothes, shinobi approved to withstand all kinds of punishment, explosions, shuriken, and they were the color he loved the most. He hadn't worn them yet, though, because he was waiting for something he didn't know what it. He closed his eyes and let the air in the room calm him down. He was ready to fight Temari, and he knew that when he beat Temari, he would have to fight either Hinata or Shikamaru. He didn't know who it would be, though, because he was a Rayearth and a ninja, not a seer. Well, according to Anima, he is not a Rayearth. He had to pass a test, some kind of knighthood test, similar to what he had to do when he became a ninja. Thankfully, those tests were more about how he handles his elemental forces, and using a sword, along with mastering his telekinetic powers, is just showing his skills, something he is pretty good at. Opening his eyes, he started to concentrate and gather energy around him, just like Ero Sennin had taught him. It wasn't enough to enter hermit mode, but it was enough to boost his abilities. Jiraiya had told him that he wasn't ready to learn and use the full power of hermit mode yet because he needed more control over his chakra or he would turn into a toad. This is the great weakness of both hermit mode and senjutsu. Naruto stood up and looked at his new clothes. He was only wearing a black t-shirt and green frog boxers. He then looked at his left hand, where his glove was. He hadn't noticed the rune symbols around the thumbhole of the glove until a week ago. He needed to pay more attention. Right now, he was afraid that Hinata could burst into his room at any time. She was becoming more bold in her approaches, and it seemed that his comment about seizing the moment had a big impact on her. She was suddenly bursting into his room, catching him in just his boxers, snapping at the elders, not her grandparents, for her poor choice of a future husband, and threatening anyone on the main family that if they opened the seals on the branch members. When he was embarrassed, he would pick at his fingers, blush, and sometimes even close his eyes. One example was when Hinata told him she wanted to marry him and liked him. He also sometimes seemed nicer and acted in a certain way, like addressing important people, who he didn't know, in the right way or using his new, and unknown, table manners. Sure, becoming a Rayearth turned his life upside down, but looking back, it had always been that way. At least now he had the tools to fight Kyuubi, and he was glad, and in a way honored, to be part of the Rayearth's legacy, since he was the fifth Rayearth of Wind. Naruto girded himself and reached for his new clothes. Today was the day, 0 hour. Today, Konoha would show its enemies no mercy, just like Gigi said they would. Remember, 2 days ago. Naruto was only wearing a black shirt with the Hyuga symbol on the front, a pair of green shorts, his usual headband, and sandals. He, Hinata, and Neji were all staring at the large number of genin who had been called to the big auditorium of the academy. Oddly, Naruto could feel seals around the room and Anbu guarding the room and the area around it. As the three of them sat down, he saw that the rookie 9 were sitting next to them without Sasuke, and that only Tenten from Neji's team had shown up. Not even their Junin senseis were there, so it was strange to call a general genin meeting 2 days before the end of the exams. Kiba whispered, "Okay, what's going on?" Shikamaru whispered back, making the rookie laugh, "Make sure you enjoy this break." Shino suddenly said, "I have a bad feeling." "Maybe one of your bugs is having a gas," Naruto muttered. "My bugs are well behaved," Shino said. "I'll buy that," Naruto said, making Shino's eye twitch. As the genin continued to whisper to each other, most of them caught up with their friends from school, while others whispered what they thought the meeting was really about. But when Hiruzen walked into the room, all the whispering stopped. From the look on his face, Naruto and the other genin could tell that whatever it was required their full attention and silence, which shocked and scared a few of them. "I'll get right to the point," Hiruzen said as he looked at the number of genin there. The number of genin was small compared to the number of chunin and junin, and that was because some genin lived and became chunin the next year, while others died. Their numbers were always changing, and Hiruzen knew that better than anyone else. With families blaming him for the deaths of their bab. When he looked closer, he saw that most of the genin were teenagers between the ages of 14 and 15. Only the rookie 9 and Guy's team were between the ages of 12 and 13. It was sad to know that, but it was the harsh truth. They chose to be weapons of the village, not of a clan, but of the village. They were the protectors of the village, and their lives belonged to the village. "Suna and Otto are about to attack Konoha," he said, closing his eyes and letting his other senses tell him how his genin charges feel. "That's some crack-up lie, Gigi?" As usual, even with his new manners, Naruto kept being Naruto, and Naruto can't be Naruto without being loud and blunt as a sledgehammer. "I'm afraid not, Naruto. It's been confirmed. Gekko Hayate was found dead yesterday, killed by a wind jutsu." Naruto narrowed his eyes. "In Konoha, other than Naruto and my son Asuma, there are no other wind users, and we all saw that Naruto's weapon can't kill." Many genin nodded. "Besides, the wind jutsu used was very focused, like a..." "What are we supposed to do?" the genin asked. "It's simple. You're all going to protect the civilians and make sure they get to the shelters. Once you get there, you'll go in with them and act as guards. I know Suna and Otto will send their full force of genin, chunin, and junin, so those genin who can't reach the shelters must act quickly and kill the enemies." Hiruzen sighed when a kunoichi genin asked, "Why him?" "Like him, Gaara has huge reserves, and Naruto has a weapon that can block it. We can't risk Junin underestimating Gaara because of his age and rank. A well-armed and trained genin can beat a chunin. And even a junin if the situation is right," Hiruzen said seriously. Naruto asked, "When will the invasion happen?" "We think it will happen during Sasuke and Gaara's match, but you should be ready because it could happen during any battle." "Stop going back." Naruto sighed at Gigi's words. He had never seen him so serious. Well, he had seen him serious once, when he found out about Kyuubi, and he was straight, blunt, honest, and most of all serious. He never let the grandpa smile, but he was dead serious, just like in the meeting and with what was told to them later. That during these kinds of invasions, the entire population was killed, and only the most important people, like clan heirs, clan females, shinobi with special skills or affinities, and now demon jailers, were captured. He met 2 of these criteria, since he was a demon jailer and had a rare affinity for wind, making him a prime target like Sasuke. With a sigh, he started by putting on his pants, which were the same as his old ones except for a large blue stripe that went around his knees and was made of a tougher material than the rest of the pants. He tied a bandage around his right thigh to hold his kunai holster, then put his shuriken pouch back where it belonged. Then he put on his top, which was a plain orange shrug. Then he sighed at that last comment. He missed shy, quiet Hinata, but in a way, he liked this Hinata, too. She had some of the same qualities as the old Hinata. She still got shy and blushed sometimes, but like Hiyashi said, she was like her mother, a sweet angel on the outside of the Hyuga walls and a powerful devil inside and in battle. He couldn't change that, but at least she was making the change. With a determined look in the mirror as he checked out his clothes, Naruto reminded himself of his mission, Temari's complete and utter destruction and humiliation, with no mercy at all. If she kept her strength, he would force her to fight with everyone, whether she liked it or not. No one who attacks his home gets away without getting what they deserve. Datbeo means, I'm sorry. Yugao sighed as she put her Anbu-issued ninjutsu on her back. Today was a day that even Anbu agents dreaded, because it was the day that all their training would pay off. They would have to deal with a Class 1 threat, which was the invasion of a village that was not their own. As Anbu, they knew they had to do two things: deal with dangerous missions that not even Jainin had to do, and protect the whole village in case of an invasion or a bigger threat, like a Biju. The Kyuubi attack had cut their numbers by a quarter of what they were before, with Chunin losing the most and Junin coming in second. But that wasn't why Yugao sighed. In fact, she and many other Anbu members, both old and new, had been eagerly waiting for that moment. They knew they lived, trained, and ate for that moment. Konoha needed them, but they weren't the only ones protecting it. The genin would protect the civilians and lead them to safety. Those who stayed behind, like Naruto, would fight Gaara, a Jinchuriki. After all, who better to fight a demon jailer than another demon jailer? At least their own had a good sense of right and wrong and didn't act like a crazy person, even if his bright orange clothes raised too many questions about his mental state. Chunin would fight in the streets because they had more people and more experience than Orochimaru Otto's ninjas. Suna, on the other hand, didn't have many ninjas, which is why they would attack with Otto. Junin would face the best people from both villages, and Tsunade thought that their Hokage and Jiraiya would face both Orochimaru and the Cage, while Tsunade helped heal the injured. Hayate's death had not been in vain, because the person who killed him didn't look in his pockets and didn't find the tape recorder he had given to her. In his death, Gecko Hayate had helped Konoha get ready for one of their biggest tests. That was enough to get her angry and push away her fears. She grabbed her cat mask and made a bow, saying that Suna and Otto would pay in blood for killing her lover and for being stupid enough to challenge the most powerful ninja village of the elemental nations. Kabuto-kun. Where are you? Orochimaru moaned in pain. His whole body was begging him to stop moving, hell, to stop at all, but he didn't listen because he had a mission. Konoha would fall, and he would be there. Now he regrets killing the Cage. Orochimaru moaned again in pain as he looked at his guard, who seemed to be just as sick as he was, if not worse. On top of that, Kimimaro had died. Whatever had hit them had been the last nail in his coffin. His weak body couldn't handle both his lung disease and this new one, and he died. Snake Sanin coughed and looked around the room. He really wants to stay, but his body is weaker than ever, even weaker than when he uses his soul transfer technique. His absence during the invasion would be a big blow to the morale of his ninjas, but as long as Gaara does his job and Kabuto calls on his aces in the hole, everything will be fine. And about that so-called medic traitor. Kabuto-kun. Where in the hell are you? Hokage-sama, it's time, said an Anbu member in a beige robe and a cat mask as he watched the old ninja put his robes on top of his battle clothes. He was getting ready to fight anything Orochimaru could throw at them. Nothing would surprise him. I'm ready. Have you heard from Kakashi? Asked Sarutobi. Yes, he just told us that Sasuke Uchiha is already on the arena with Shikamaru Nara. Temari and Gaara have also been seen inside the arena, and we are keeping a close eye on them as you ordered. Should we do the same with Sasuke? Asked the Anbu. The Hokage said, yes, Captain, please do. I have a bad feeling about Sasuke. When he turned around, he saw both the current Anbu captain and Kakashi with him. It's not like he didn't know Kakashi was there. He's a cage-level ninja, and even at his old age, he can still beat up any ninja, period. Hiruzen asked, "Anything to report, Kakashi?" Kakashi said, "Yes, Hokage-sama. Sasuke is acting strangely, but he didn't say it in a bored way. Instead, he said it in a serious way that Sarutobi and his Anbu captain both noticed." "Acting as?" he asked. Sarutobi wanted to laugh when Sasuke said, "I taught him the Chidori." The Chidori is not a technique that should be taught to a child, especially one with as much mental damage as Sasuke. He learned that in 3 days. That surprised Hiruzen, and his Anbu captain looked at Kakashi with a hint of surprise. "Explain, Kakashi," Hiruzen told him. "I thought it would take the whole month to teach him that in speed and taijutsu like Lee. I thought I would only teach him speed because of what happened with my other student in the Akatsuki. But he learned that move in less than 3 days, as well as the taijutsu and speed of Lee. I also had to teach him other things to keep him busy, since he spent most of his time thinking about how to kill his brother and Naruto." Hiruzen narrowed his eyes at that. "He learned all my lighting jutsu moves, all chakra training exercises I could drill into him, and several fire and earth jutsus. To face Naruto's wind and lighting affinities, interesting how he knew of Naruto's affinities." Hiruzen wondered, "I wonder the same, true Naruto has 2 rare element affinities, I thought that he was learning that because of Gaara, since he used wind and sand, that is a derivative of earth, but I was wrong. Gaara means nothing to Sasuke, he wants Naruto dead," Kakashi confessed, there Hiruzen sighed. "Do you have any ideas, Kakashi?" Considering Sasuke's unstable nature, and Sakura and Naruto being apprentices of Tsunade-sama and Jiraiya-sama Ichi, I would recommend disband Team 7, put Sasuke on full Anbu observation, let Inoichi dig around his mind and treat him, let Ibiki interrogate him, and according to their evaluation, see if he is fit to continue ninja life, Kakashi said bluntly. That's something drastic, considering that Team 7 is the only team who has passed your test, Hiruzen said. They are special kids, and contrary to popular belief, I never chose Sasuke to be on my team. Remember, I asked Shino to be on my team. It was only a day before the team placements that the elders saw fit that I, as the last Sharingan wielder, teach the last Uchiha. Whoever was on board was just dead weight, Kakashi said bluntly. Is that so? Well, seems the dead weight there is only Sasuke. I'll agree in disbanding Team 7. Sakura and Naruto will join other teams in missions if I or my successor sees fit, Kakashi nodded, seeing how Hiruzen pulled a sheet of paper. Go now, Kakashi, keep Sasuke online, and let Naruto handle the rest. Remember, he, alongside Sakura, are the next generation of Sannin. Hokage-sama, isn't the Sannin composed of 3 ninjas? Kakashi asked with a small smirk. Well, on these exams we will see who is worth of being alongside Sakura and Naruto as Neo Sannin. With that, Kakashi bowed and left the room. He took extreme steps to keep the Uchiha in line. The Anbu captain said, extreme steps for extreme situations. I should have tried harder to help that boy. The stadium is bustling with life, Sakura said as she stared at the great number of civilians seated around them in the stadium. But Sakura also sighted several Anbu hidden among the civilians, along with the more visible Chunin and Junin alongside the arena. Also she spotted the genin of the other day around several civilians, all looking at some odd individuals. Some of them were unknown to Sakura. Although Konoha is big, there is a general factor among the civilians and ninjas alike in how to dress. No one wears a turban because it's not that hot in Konoha. Only in places with little water, like the desert that surrounds Suna, do people wear turbans. Shizune said to Sakura, who was sitting next to her, you noticed. Ino, Choji, and Tenten were also nearby. Tenten finally got rid of his nose cast, thanks to Tsunade, who lived up to her reputation as the best medic ninja. Yeah. Are they? Sakura started, noticing Shizune's narrowed eyes. She wondered why Shizune did that until she saw Konkaru, of all people, a couple of seats in front of them. Konkaru is a Suna ninja who didn't make the cut thanks to Shino, a Suna ninja who had his puppet on his bundle tied on his back, or vice versa, like in the match. She had to keep a close eye on Konkaru because he was dangerous and his puppet had poisoned weapons. On top of that, Konkaru was weak without his puppet, and taking it away from him was enough to put him in a bad position against an opponent. All she and the other ninja could do was wait and hope there wasn't another crack-up person as an enemy. 2 villages were enough, and Naruto already had 2 S-class criminals on his tail. All because of the stupid Kyuubi. Sometimes she wished the Yondaime had killed the beast instead of cursing Naruto. Naruto looked around and saw that the other genin, including Gaara and Sasuke, had left. Naruto thought that Sasuke's look of disgust was worse than Gaara's, so he was going to ask Kakashi-sensei what the hell he had done to Sasuke. After all, only a few kids can get away with being all dark. Be careful with Naruto. I sense a lot of bad on that one. Naruto thought to Anima, what do you mean, Anima? I know Sasuke is all emo, but emo doesn't mean evil, at least not the way I see it. Boy, just because you're an emo, punk, goth, or metalhead doesn't mean you're on the bad side. I mean, everything about him oozes evil. I don't get it. As a Rayearth, Naruto, you will see many things on Crystalia, like Sasuke, who looks noble, is quiet, and is cold. People like Sasuke are the ones you have to watch out for the most on Crystalia. The Dark One tricked a Rayearth into doing that, and the Queen had to watch helplessly as a friend died to protect her and another Rayearth killed the killer. Okay, all I get from this is that even Rayearths aren't immune to darkness. Part of it is true, but you must remember this. No matter how hard the road seems or how painful things seem to you and the people you care about, you must keep being yourself and never change because of treason. Even Hinata, the girl who loves you now, can easily follow Sasuke if you or someone she cares about makes a mistake. I have a feeling that Naruto has some hard times ahead of him, but if he keeps going and gets through them, he will reach his dreams. Those who are with him must also keep going if they want to reach the stars. Naruto sighed in appreciation at Anima's words. The tiger seemed to always have words of advice for him, which, contrary to popular belief, didn't fall on deaf ears. Naruto did listen to advice, but only from people who spoke from the heart, not just to say something. Soon, his eyes moved to Temari, who narrowed her eyes at him and reached for her fan. When he saw this, Naruto just grunted, his right hand already on top of his left, ready to call Kei's no Yaiba. Are both contestants ready? Asked a Junin dressed like a normal Junin, but with his headband tied like a bandana and the metal plate on the back of his head. He also had a toothpick in his mouth. He knew that the battle would be too hard for Nara. Both blondes were skilled wind users, and one of them was out to find and humiliate Naruto. It was no secret that Naruto had enemies inside Konoha's walls, but everyone soon learned how vengeful Naruto could be. Many families and ninjas' reputations were ruined in just one day because of the blonde. One might think the kid was a diabolical mastermind who knew how to use explosives. Anbu had asked the Hokage not to let the blonde join the demolition squad, but that's another story. Genma knew that when Naruto was on a mission and had that serious, evil look in his eyes, it could only mean one thing. Doom. He felt sorry for Temari. The poor girl would soon find out why Naruto's accidents stopped happening when he was 5, which is when the blonde got his first scroll about traps and explosives. Soon, he cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention to himself. It was clear that all Konoha ninjas who had been on a Naruto chase, or at Naruto prank, knew what the Kage's oldest son was about to go through. Genma hoped that Naruto didn't have anything explosive, but knowing the blonde, that was a long shot. I am ready, Judge, Temari said as she reached for her fan. She had made the mistake of underestimating her opponent, as the painful bruises on her sides in the shape of brass knuckles reminded her, and of course she was now learning one of the golden rules of the ninja nations: never judge an opponent by how he or she looks. The blonde might look silly, but underneath it all, he was a force to be reckoned with. Naruto said, "Let's get this party started, Proctor," which made her hiss. She still remembers what her sensei said when he told her what to do about the match. "Kill the Maelstrom," he said. When he told her that, she laughed. It was obvious that she would do it for free, but in the end, the blonde would be caught, brainwashed, and used as a Suna ninja, just like the Hyuga girl and the Uchiha. The next thing she knew, she was looking at her father, who was focused on the match and looking at it. Temari narrowed her eyes, knowing that her father was waiting to see what she had planned. After all, Baki's father was more like her own father, so she didn't care if her father died during the invasion. Genma yelled, "Okay, let the first match of the Chunin exam finals begin." Temari and Naruto shot at each other less than a second later, with Naruto holding a better version of Kei's no Yaiba than the one Temari remembered. But that didn't matter, because Temari had her own surprises. Clang. Temari grunted as the small blonde started to push her back. He was pretty strong for his size, and with another grunt, she decided it was time to use her new toys. She sent a small blast of chakra to her fan, and the blonde was about to get the shock of his life. The blonde did back away when saw-like edges came out of the edges of her fan. They weren't as long as a kunai, but they were as sharp as the wind she controlled. With a smirk, she spread out her fan all the way. She wasn't going to take chances with him and let him gain momentum like the Hyuga boy did. She was going to tear him right then and there. Cutting whirlwind technique. Temari shouted, letting a huge blast out of her fan, shredding all in front of her. She didn't fail to notice Naruto's smirk, and her eyes widened. He dashed and made a stab motion towards her jutsu, Fury. To all surprise, the attack reverted to her, who had to dodge away of the now massive attack that stopped on one of the walls, shredding it. Temari glared angrily at the blonde, who swung his sword several times before taking a battle stance. Suddenly, the sword broke in half, and small thunders formed around the middle of the blade. "My turn," Naruto said suddenly, moving quickly, then jumping and spinning in all directions, before ramming the tip of the huge sword on the ground and dragging it along the way. "Dual Hurricane," he yelled, swinging the blade completely, and two. Temari yelled, "Wind Release, Wind Wall," and slammed her hands on her fan. Boom. Both wind fins hit Temari, causing smoke to rise, but the smoke quickly went away, leaving Temari unharmed and with a strange twist of wind in front of her that looked like a half-dome. With a scowl, Naruto dashed at Temari, who pulled several shuriken out, and threw them at him. Naruto just grunted as he swung his hand, and a single shuriken flew at the six she threw at him, but then he formed a strange cross-hand seal with just one hand, his fingers forming a cross, shuriken shadow clone jutsu. The lone shuriken became 20, deflecting the six, and the rest traveling at her, who just growled as she flicked them all with her massive fan. When she closed her fan again, she fought the blonde in close combat. The serrated blades of her fan groaned every time they hit Kei's no Yaiba. Both of them swung their huge weapons and hit each other, but it was clear that Naruto had more experience fighting close up with his huge sword than Temari, who only swung it. Temari jumped away, unfolded her fan again, and started swinging it, sending Naruto blast after blast of wind tunnels. Naruto seemed to just raise his hand and push them away, as if he were pushing away an obstacle. Naruto said, "Wind Release," and made more one-handed seals. He then said, "Demon Shuriken Barrage," and punched his free hand forward. 6 huge wind-made Fuma Shuriken formed and flew at Temari. Temari cursed her bad luck and used her whirlwind technique again, destroying 4 of the 6 huge shuriken. The 5th barely hit her elbow, but it cut her badly. The 6th, on the other hand, came more slowly, so she used her fan to hit it away, missing Naruto's smirk as she did so. Boom. All the people in the audience were horrified to see how the wind shuriken, when it exploded, let out thunder and sent Temari flying away. Poof. Just as the flying girl turned into a charred log, Naruto suddenly did a somersault over Temari, who was behind him. She was swinging her sharp fan blades at him, so he landed behind her and swung his sword at her. She blocked it with her fan and kicked him in the stomach, but then she found herself flying away, cursing her memory for forgetting that he had telekinesis and could push things out of him without the wind. Both of them landed within a few feet of each other. Naruto's fall only scratched his stomach, while Temari's hit her all over, making her feel a little angry. As they quickly went around each other, like measuring, Temari noticed that the blonde hadn't said a word. In his other match, he had only spoken to call his jutsus and say, "My turn." "So. You finally calmed down," Temari said. "I think having a girlfriend finally tamed you," Temari said, and he smiled. "At least I have one. How about you, Miss Lonely?" Temari's eye twitched. It wasn't a secret that she didn't have a boyfriend, but she'd rather have a strong one than a weak civilian. Plus, most men were afraid of Hera and Gaara, especially. Temari said, "Tisk, I don't need a man in the end, and if I get one, it will be a strong one." "So it will be a weak one then," Naruto said out of the blue. Temari hissed, "What?" Naruto said, "I let you hit me on purpose. I could have slammed your sorry self around the arena without even getting close to you, but I'd rather have some fun." Many ninjas knew what would happen next because Naruto never acted arrogant unless he was playing with his victim, and those who knew that shivered at what would happen next. "But playtime is over, girl. Give up, and I'll spare you the humiliation." "Please do, I don't want to break you," Naruto said. That made Temari angry, because no one doubted her skills as a kunoichi. "Break me? You little prick, you have no right to tell me that. I will be the one to break you." Temari shouted as she ran at the blonde, who laughed. Sarutobi knew that Naruto was the right person to break Suna's morale. After all, everyone in Konoha knew that making fun of the blonde was a lot safer than attacking him. Naruto was doing well on his mission and in battle, and he was also proving a theory of Sarutobi's. The Cage was acting very strangely, and he seemed to care too much about Naruto's match. He had also said that he really wanted to see the match between his son and Sasuke. Of course, he was right to be suspicious. The Cage had never called Gaara his son. Instead, he had called him a weapon. Also, he looked weak. So weak, in fact, that Hiruzen bets that his own grandson would beat the crap out of him. That and the fact that his skin looked like death led him to realize that the man was Orochimaru, and he had the same illness as Anko. Anko was marked with his seal, which wasn't a secret. But when she suddenly got sick and had to be cared for by Iruka, many people became suspicious and thought that if it happened to her, it would happen to everyone who was marked. Sasuke seemed to be the only exception, until they remembered that extra seal on his cursed mark. Whatever it was not something Orochimaru would add on purpose or by accident. He is too careful to make a mistake like adding a bad seal, and every ninja knows that seals are a very delicate art that needs to be treated with care. When Sarutobi looked down, he tried to hide a smile. Many of the people wearing turbans were worried about Temari, who was angry and trying to hit Naruto, who was hiding and making funny faces to make her even more angry. Most of the hidden Suna and Auto ninjas were visible genin fresh out of the academy or people convinced by Orochimaru to get stronger with a weapon, like Zaku and Dozu, who had never been in a fight. He knew that his genin would be able to handle them easily. After all, even though they study history and other things almost every day at the academy, they also push them to the limit when it comes to fighting. Many of the Rookie 9 have scars from Sasuke on a spar, Naruto's traps, Choji's rampages, or Sakura's unprovoked punches. They were all combat adepts, clan prodigies, heirs, or... He said, when he saw a single feather land on a civilian and make him fall asleep right away. His eyes grew wide as more feathers started to fall, many of them aimed at the ninjas in the stands. With his eyes narrowed, he looked to his right and saw the Cage jump away, followed by 4 guards to the top of the observation booth. With an angry snarl, Sarutobi Sahida, or better yet, screamed the orders for which all the ninja in his ranks were waiting. Genjutsu. On the attack. Sasuke laughed as he saw several ninjas push the feathers away. Many Suna and Auto ninjas rushed into the arena right away, including Junin, Chunin, and most of all Genin. He felt an itch on his left wrist, and when he narrowed his eyes, he saw Gaara and Kankuro jump into the arena. It was clear that they were going to attack Naruto, since he was the strongest Genin and the biggest threat to the many Genin or Suna and Auto. There, he laughed at the idea, but let it go later. If they wanted to waste time with the dope, that was fine with him. He had other things to do. Looking up, he saw several snakes breaking through the walls of Konoha. It was clear that this wasn't just a single assassination or terror attack to bring down Konoha's morale by killing random civilians and ninjas on their own walls. It was an open invasion. Sasuke slid into the shadows and laughed as he watched Kakashi fight and beat up Suna ninjas without any remorse. At the same time, the Freako of Guy kicked 3 Auto ninjas in the head, breaking their skulls with a loud crack. Sasuke turned on his newest Sharingan and copied as many jutsus as he could in 5 seconds. Then, he slipped deeper into the dark corridors and focused on his targets. Both Naruto and Gaara. Tsunade cursed as he punched an auto genin who had the nerve to come into her hospital. She is a doctor, and the hospital is a sacred place for care and healing, not a freaking slaughterhouse. Why you jerks? She yelled as she gave another genin a nasty uppercut that impaled half of his body on the roof. She then turned and kicked a genin kunoichi who had snuck up behind her, hearing how her ribcage collapsed on the impact and her spine broke when she hit a wall. 4 more genin of auto came at her, making her hands glow blue. She hated to end lives so soon, but they were enemies, no matter how old they were. They were running so fast that her hands barely touched the back of their necks, but that was enough for her. She had cut the brain's connection to the rest of the body, so they wouldn't feel their deaths. It was the most human thing she could do for the young idiots. Report. Tsunade yelled as he saw a kunoichi Chunin stab another Chunin of Suna in the heart. The bastards are trying to break in Tsunade-sama. The last floor is theirs, but luckily there is only paperwork on it, so we are holding them there. We moved all the patients to windowless rooms and closed the 11th and 10th floors because they are currently at war. Damn it, Orochimaru. What do those jerks want in those rooms? Unless, thought Tsunade as he raised his hand and cut the windpipe of a charging Chunin. Kuso. Tsunade cursed. That room has all the medical files of all the ninjas in Konoha, clans and all, including DNA profiles, names and pictures of dead or living relatives, and a picture of Naruto if they find it. Damn it, tell all the ninjas on this floor to guard the entrance. I'll deal with those 3 floors of idiots, Tsunade said. The kunoichi asked, what's in there that's so important to you, Tsunade-sama, that you want to go? Tsunade yelled, Naruto's medical file. Only doctors with Sarutobi-sensei's permission can enter and see Naruto's files, and only in his presence. That thing has the names of Naruto's family. Fool, if they get those files, Iwa will declare war on us. No one knows who Naruto's parents are, and it's better that way. Tsunade yelled, running as fast as she could and breaking the bones of any fool who tried to cross her. The kunoichi, for her part, tried to figure out what had been said to her, and then she came to a terrible realization. Kami, how stupid and blind are we, really? Genin of Suna lunged at Naruto with a kunai in his hand. Naruto jumped and dodged, and then he used Kei's no Yaiba on the genin and 2 auto chunin, cutting their clothes with the kunai and making them scream as if they had been cut by a real sword. Looking around, he raised his hand, which stopped a Suna Junin in his tracks. He then started to close his hand, which caused the Suna Junin to hold his neck in pain. Naruto was crushing the Suna Junin's windpipe, an attack he copied from a bad guy named Dark Breather in a movie called Galaxy Wars. Dark Breather could crush anyone's windpipes by using something called the will, so Naruto, who had. Naruto reminded himself as he looked at the dead ninja that they were the enemy. They were attacking his home, killing his people and friends, and destroying it for no reason. As the herald of the people, he was also their defender, the shield of the weak and the sword of the weak. Anyone who dared to disturb the peace and take lives for no reason would have to answer to him, the Rayearth of Wind. Now, he was no longer a ninja. With a roar, Naruto threw Kei's no Yaiba, which spun and stabbed 2 Suna ninjas in the chest, sending them flying into the wall and making them scream like little girls. Then, he turned to his right and slammed his hand into an auto genin's face, breaking his cheekbone and sending him flying into a nearby wall. 2 more Suna genin came at him, and he smirked. Naruto growled as he held his hand, calling Kei's no Yaiba, this one returning, with a pair of Suna ninjas whimpering in pain, just to scream more when Naruto swung Kei's no Yaiba at a pair of kunoichi, and both ninjas flying towards both kunoichi, and then being hit by Choji's massive hands, already expanded by his family jutsu. Naruto smiled when he saw Choji fighting with the defenders. He also saw a lazy Shikamaru holding 3 auto ninjas, which Ino and a barrage of shuriken quickly took care of. When he turned around, he saw Shino and his bugs swarming several genin kunoichi of Suna and Auto, Hinata tearing the ranks of genin of Auto without any mercy, and Kiba enjoying the fresh meat, since it was painfully obvious that the genin who were attacking them were as new as the grass. In a way, he was glad for it. Most of the enemy Junin and Chunin were attacking Konoha's most important spots, like the hospital and the Hokage Tower, while the enemy genin were left to deal with the civilians and overwhelm the defenders with numbers. It was clear that they had underestimated them, and whoever had cast the genjutsu on the arena either sucked or was saving chakra for something else. He lifted K's no Yeba and faced 5 auto genin and 1 chunin. He smiled when he felt someone behind him and said, "Nice to have you join the party, Panda-chan." "Wouldn't miss it for the world, Whiskers-kun. How many are you dealing on your end?" Tenten asked. 5 genin and a chunin, you? 4 Suna genin, and it might get hard with 1 more, she said. What are you afraid of? Naruto teased. If you want, I can deal with the one who joins. Naruto said. No, I can deal with them myself, Tenten said, lifting her metallic tonfa. This time she was going all out, with her best toys. Both of them jumped right into the fight against their enemies. Naruto had seen Sarutobi jump and follow the case cage and his 4 guards, so he told Sarutobi, "Go get him, Gigi." Sarutobi glared at the case cage and his 4 guards. He saw that an Anbu member he didn't know was setting up some kind of summoning ritual on top of the watch booth. Soon, a pair of Anbu guards, including the current Anbu captain, joined him and stood on either side of him. You've gone too far, Orochimaru, Sarutobi said, not even being upset when the case cage tore his face off, revealing Orochimaru's face, and the guards with him tore their grips, revealing almost identical clothes, with the same purple belt around their waists. But he was shocked when the unknown Anbu turned out to be Kabuto. When he took off his mask, he said, "Another young life ruined by your ambition. Everything you touch seems to hurt and corrupt Orochimaru." He glared at the snake Sannin. "Spare me the self-righteous talk. You have no right to judge me. Everything I've done has been for the sake of progress," Orochimaru said, looking Sarutobi right in the eye and sneering as he threw off his Hokage robes to reveal his old battle grabs and get ready to fight the Sannin. Not long after that, what looked like a stone coffin with the kanji for first started to come out of the ground. Not long after that, a second coffin with the kanji for second came out. Sarutobi yelled at his loyal ninjas, Anbu. Shoot it down. Don't let Orochimaru disturb the death. Sarutobi sighed when he saw that. If that happened, morale in Konoha would drop, and Kami knows what would happen to Naruto's seal. His life was the price paid to make the seal, so if he was brought back in this way, the contract with the Shinigami would be broken, or something else would happen. He didn't know, because making a deal with the Death God was even riskier than making a deal with it. Orochimaru teased, "Oh bummer, you blasted an empty casket, pity." Sarutobi saw that the third one had no kanji and, unlike the other 2, it was empty. Damn it, what did you do? Orochimaru just smiled. I'm doing Naruto-kun a favor by bringing him back to his family. His mother and father already know what's going on in his afterlife. Neji was scared as he blocked another blow from the red-haired woman dressed as a civilian. This civilian was about Junin level and pretty angry, if he could say so himself. His angry, blue-green eyes were drawn to hers. They reminded him of Naruto's eyes, but she was much angrier than he was. She had attacked the civilians and the 2 Chunin who were with him, killing both of them without even batting an eyelash. If that was the true power of a Junin, he didn't stand a chance against her, since she was willing to attack civilians without mercy. Get out of the way. I only have business with them. They will pay for their treachery. She growled, pulling a kunai out of a death Chunin holster. They will pay for the death of my son. She added, charging at Neji, who had no choice but to use his ultimate defense. Kaiten. Without any remorse, Neji hit her with his chakra dome, sending her flying into a wall. Heaving a sigh of relief, Neji turned to check on his guards. Just as his eyes widened when he saw them all dead, with shock written indelibly on their faces, he cursed and turned on his Byakugan, but he was temporarily blinded by a swirl of energy that came at him, and mind-numbing pain started in his stomach and spread through his body as it spiraled towards a wall. Neji opened his eyes, and as he did, his mind registered all the pains on his body, including broken bones and cuts. He was able to recognize his attacker, which made him feel sick to his stomach because, as far as he knew, his attacker had been dead for at least 12 years. When he turned around, he saw the red-haired woman coming toward him with her kunai ready to stab him. He tried to get up, but he was in too much pain to fight. "Tell me," said the voice of a man who had been dead for 12 years. Neji's eyes flickered a few times before he lost consciousness. If he had stayed awake a little longer, he would have heard the woman with the man say the name of their son. "Can you tell me where the jerks are who killed Naruto?" "Orochimaru, you jerk, what have you done?" Sarutobi yelled. The snake Sannin laughed weakly. "Me? I just reunited the family," he said. "But they weren't happy when I told them that Naruto-kun had been killed by a mob led by his student and his 3 Junin friends." Hiruzen yelled in anger, "You fool. Naruto's seal is bound by the Death God contract, and Minato's soul was the price paid. You resurrected Naruto and Kushina, which was more stupid than anything else. You did it on purpose to break Kyuubi's seal. So. He's back. I told you he had to die that day," Enma said. "Can it, Enma? I don't care about the past anymore. All I want to do now is kill him." Sarutobi screamed in anger, which made the Monkey King smile. The last time Sarutobi had snapped at him, he had killed all of his enemies and become known as the God of Shinobi. "Oh, you plan to kill me, sensei? I'm hurt," Orochimaru mocked. "Not much when I rip your heart, monster." Sarutobi snapped, "Anbu, kill his guards, no mercy, no prisoners, then kill Kabuto for his treason. I want his head on my desk after all this is over." Sarutobi snapped. The Anbu nodded without hesitation. After all, it was the first time they saw their aged Hokage as angry as he was, but they had also reasons to be angry. In his quest to destroy Konoha, Orochimaru not only woke up people who shouldn't have been woken up, but he also broke the seal that kept Kyuubi away. The Anbu captain and his second-in-command pulled their ninjutsu out of their robes, ready to fight and tear the already weakened guards. Surely they were now on genin level, easy kills. Kabuto was a different story, but they didn't. When they felt the sudden burst of demon-like chakra, which Konoha was very familiar with, they did flinch. The chakra of the 9 tails had started to leak, and Naruto had no way out. Ino shivered when she heard Naruto scream in pain, fall to his knees, and drop his huge sword. Naruto curled up in a ball, red chakra leaking out of him painfully. At first, it didn't seem that bad, but when she saw that some of the red chakra started to peel Naruto's skin and burn it like paper on fire, she was terrified. She had never seen the power of a Jinchuriki used, whether willingly or. "What the hell is going on?" Choji screamed, Kyuubi is leaking its chakra to Naruto, it's hurting him." Ino screamed, fear etched on her eyes. Not sooner than that, Kakashi landed near them, Shikamaru behind him. "I got him." As soon the chakra stared to leak, sweet mother is peeling him. Shikamaru screamed in surprise as Naruto's right hand lost all the skin, revealing no muscles, but what seemed to be a red shell of chakra and blood. "Kuso, what happened?" asked Kakashi. "I don't know." Suddenly, Tenten screamed and landed at Kakashi's side. "He was fine a little while ago, he was fine." Then he screamed and clawed a Chunin face clean. "What's wrong with him?" he asked. The Yondaime had to seal Kyuubi inside Naruto in order to defeat the beast. "I don't know why, but Kyuubi is leaking its chakra to Naruto. It's trying to get out," Kakashi said as he looked at his struggling student, and so did everyone else in the arena. The red chakra was so powerful and evil that even Gaara seemed to stop his brutal attack on a group of Konoha Chunin and start clutching his head, losing control. All of the fighting in and around the arena stopped when they suddenly felt the evil chakra. Many people said they could hear the Kyuubi laugh as he broke free of his human prison. Many shinobi of Suna feared the worst, Shukaku going on a rampage, but this was worse, Kyuubi breaking free. In Konoha, Temari was paralyzed, knowing how much power the small blonde held inside him, and Kankuru actually sought shelter near Gaara, because he didn't. Naruto let out a raw cry of pain as he tried to call back Kyuubi's essence inside him. He did this slowly, and the red chakra spots on his burned skin turned into blood. This showed that Naruto was struggling to keep the seal in place, but it also seemed to show that Naruto was winning the battle of dominance. No. Gaara yelled. Mother wants your blood. I want to kill you, release your power. Don't let it go. The sand user jumped at Naruto with a sandclaw ready to attack the blonde and force the Ed chakra again. In Gaara's mind, Naruto was the ultimate enemy, the one whose death would prove his existence more than any other death he had dealt against his enemies. Gaara yelled, D. As he finally brought his claw towards Naruto, only to scream again, this time in unholy pain as something stabbed him in the stomach. SS Sasuke. Teme? Naruto gasped. He hadn't expected his opponent to save him from Gaara. Sasuke had easily bought him precious seconds to finish the job and keep Kyuubi sealed with the help of Anima. But he was surprised when Sasuke turned and looked at him coldly, like how Itachi would look at him when he noticed the strange atom-shaped pupil in his Sharingan. I don't care much about you, dope, Sasuke said. His sword was actually glowing yellow and sucking Gaara's chakra, or so it seemed. Only yellow chakra was being sucked, not even a drop of blue chakra, and Gaara lost his transformation, becoming a normal person with a sword going through his stomach. My only goal is revenge, Sasuke said, his skin suddenly getting the black marks Naruto had seen before. Vengeance against my brother for being a fool, he said. Vengeance against the elders for ruining my life, he said louder, pulling the sword out of Gaara and throwing him to Temari. Naruto now noticed that Sasuke's blade grip was longer, and he could make out a kanji on the grip. Revenge against a village that betrayed my clan, Sasuke growled, his fangs getting strangely longer. For selling my clan and shunning them, Sasuke said, the white part of his eyes turning black. For forcing their hand and sending them to their death. Sasuke screamed. I see the truth now, dope. This village betray me, my clan, my family, they destroy them, and they will do the same to you, and any other clan. I have seen it, I have seen the plans of the old fools, what they plan to do with the Hyuga, or any other clan wanting to gain more power than given to them, Sasuke said. None is saved, dope, not even you, and I offer you a chance. The battle around them kept in a halt, every single word heard by them. I will kill my brother, but I don't have the power yet. I will destroy this village and get my revenge, but I don't have the right. Allies. Sasuke said, I don't care much about Orochimaru, because his life is already lost. I don't care much about my brother's goals, because their blood will stain my blade soon. But I do care about you, because I need powerful allies. Naruto kept fighting Kyuubi. You have a lot of power, which I will take, but if you give it up, you'll be a good ally. Rayearth. This simple statement made all the Suna ninjas flinch. No one wanted to fight a Rayearth. They'd rather fight a mad Gaara. Rayearths were a different kind of enemy, one that not even Shukaku was expected to beat. I will take your power, just like I did with Gaara and the other 7, and I will gain absolute power. Even then, I will need people I can trust. I said I didn't care much about your safety, which is true, but I do care about your loyalty. You are too valuable to be thrown away, Sasuke said, flicking his sword in front of Naruto as Orochimaru looked at the Uchiha and swore revenge. Join me, dope, and we'll bring those who wronged us to their knees. We'll have everything we've ever wanted, and I'll even give you the title of Hokage once I clean this village of weaklings like the elders. The world will be ours, and all I want is your loyalty to me, Sasuke said, shocking everyone, including Kakashi and Shikamaru. What makes you think I'll join you? Naruto asked. Kyuubi was fighting against his mind and Anima for freedom. Sasuke smiled and said, I can give you freedom. Freedom of the beast inside you. Naruto's eyes widened. Kyuubi will be under my control alone, and you will be free, free of the stairs, free of the pain, free to start over with whoever you want. If you want the Hyuga. All I need to do is stab you with this sword, and the monster that haunts you and makes you a monster will be sealed and tamed so that it can only be used by me, Sasuke said, making Naruto's eyes widen. Swear loyalty to me, and I'll give you everything you've ever wanted. Family, power, money, respect. Everything you've ever wanted, Sasuke said. He didn't even bother to look at the former Kages who landed behind him, disobeying Orochimaru's orders, which was impossible, and didn't even care about the platoon of samurai who suddenly appeared with a boy who had hair like Rock Lee's. Funny rats, Sasuke said, turning to the newcomers with a smug look on his face. Come, he said, raising his blade at them, come to your death. Feed my blade.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.